Chapter 1784 Chaos at the Towers. Chapter 1784 Chaos at the Towers. Open up before I take some of your materials for myself. Liao Tian shouted again after waiting a few minutes. Yet there was still no response. Odd. He'd always fall for that threat, he muttered with a raised eyebrow. By now, Liao Tian began to sense that something might be amiss. He knocked again, this time with more force. Open the damn door before I bust it open myself, he roared. No response. Liao Tian had a strong urge to destroy the door and force himself inside to see the situation. But there was one minor problem. The door was being protected by a level 7 defensive formation, and he did not have the capability to remove it. Fuck. With no other option, Liao Tian rushed back to the array tower to request Tower Master Gao's assistance. What? Are you out of your mind? You want me to forcefully open Tower Master Ma's doors while he's in seclusion? The one with a level 7 formation? Do you have any idea how much effort that will take? Tower Master Gao exclaimed after hearing Liao Tian's request. I know it sounds bad, but I think something bad happened to Tower Master Ma. What could possibly happen to him while he's inside his room? You also said he was in seclusion, so there's a good chance he just couldn't hear you knock. Or what? Are you saying that he, a tier 7 pill ancestor, got into an accident while doing alchemy? Stop asking so many damn questions and just come with me. Something bad happened. I can feel it, said Liao Tian, clearly getting impatient. Tower Master Gao frowned, his expression stern as he said, That's not the right attitude when asking for help. I may not know what you and Tower Master Ma have been working on behind the scenes, but I don't like it. Whatever. Let's go. Wait. You think I am going to remove that level 7 formation alone? Didn't you create it? I did, with the help of several other level 7 array masters. Although I can still remove it myself, it'll take a long time. How long? A few weeks. We don't have that much time. Then you'll have to wait for me to gather a few helpers. I will wait for you at the alchemy tower, said Liao Tian. Come as soon as possible. While Liao Tian returned to the alchemy tower and continued knocking on the door, Tower Master Gao went to gather several high-level array masters. Several hours later, Tower Master Gao visited the alchemy tower with these array masters. How long will it take now? Liao Tian asked. A few hours at least. But heavens, what is this stench? It smells like blood, Tower Master Gao exclaimed, his face contorting in shock as the pungent metallic odor filled his senses. I wanted you to hurry for a reason, Liao Tian shrugged. Fuck. Let's hurry up and get to work. Tower Master Gao and the other array masters began working on the formation. Meanwhile, Yuan saw Liao Tian, Tower Master Gao, and the array masters enter the alchemy tower in haste. After leaving the boy and his mother, Yuan actually returned to the alchemy tower and hid in plain sight. Good thing I lingered for a little bit longer. 8 array masters and 1 blacksmith, huh? Judging by their clothes and badges, one was the array tower's tower master, and the blacksmith was the metal tower's tower master. They must be trying to force their way inside the room. Now that they're outside their home and distracted by the situation at Alchemy Tower, it's a good time to check out their towers. With that in mind, Yuan swiftly left the Alchemy Tower and made his way to the Array Tower. Using Shadow Veil, Yuan traveled to the peak of the tower. However, the door was also sealed by a level 7 formation. Since he was just promoted to level 5 as an Array Master, there was simply no way for him to unlock the level 7 formation. Fortunately, he was not out of options and had other means of opening the door. Yuan retrieved number 1 under heaven and activated True Dragon Awakening without hesitation. With his full strength, he unleashed God of War's final execution, directing a relentless barrage of strikes against the heavily fortified door, relying purely on brute force to force his way through. Strike after strike echoed in the air, the sheer intensity of the attacks shaking the surroundings and the tower as a whole, bewildering everyone within it. Finally, as Yuan poured the last of his spiritual energy into one final, decisive blow, the formation protecting the door shattered under the overwhelming force. Yuan entered the room and quickly investigated the place. After finding no hints, Yuan left the place without a second thought. Soon after he left, The array masters in the array tower scrambled to the top floor to investigate the commotion, and the area quickly became flooded with frantic activity. Meanwhile, Yuan was already halfway to the metal tower. As someone broke into the tower master's floor. Contact the tower master. Quickly. The array masters tried contacting Tower Master Gao, but there was no response, as he was too busy to even notice it. He's not responding. What should we do? The Tower Master went to the Alchemy Tower with Tower Master Liao, and he brought along several array masters with him. Someone suddenly said, I will go to the Alchemy Tower and meet with the Tower Master myself. In the meantime, try to figure out what had happened here, and if anything had been stolen. Sometime later, at the Metal Tower, Yuan stood before its teleportation formation. This formation is virtually identical to the one at the Alchemy Tower and other towers. I guess they were all created by the Array Tower. This is great news since it saves me time trying to crack it. After spending just a few minutes, Yuan activated the formation and teleported himself to the top of the Metal Tower. Chapter 1785 Human Remains as Materials. Chapter 1785 Human Remains as Materials. Upon reaching the top floor of the Metal Tower, Yuan was met with yet another door, a heavily fortified door protected by a level 7 formation. However, unlike the one at Array Tower, this door wasn't only guarded by a formation. Its very structure was crafted from rare and precious materials. Looks like I will need to put in a little more effort if I want to break inside, Yuan muttered. He retrieved number 1 under heaven the next moment. However, just as he was about to bombard the door, it suddenly opened, and a young man walked out. Tower Master, are you back? I have a question. Yuan had deactivated Shadow Veil to focus on offense, so he was not concealed at this moment. Who are you? The young man asked with raised eyebrows when he saw Yuan, but he quickly became distracted by the weapon in Yuan's grasp. Heavens! What a masterpiece! Where in heaven's name did you acquire it? The young man approached Yuan with sparkling eyes, completely ignoring his unknown identity. Sensing no ill intent from the young man, Yuan decided to play along and said, I was invited here by your tower master. He wanted to take a look at my weapon. No doubt about that. Any blacksmith would want to inspect such a beauty. Please come inside. The young man invited Yuan inside the room. Yuan nodded and followed him inside. Surprisingly, the top floor wasn't a room but a massive smithy full of equipment and materials. By the way, where's the tower master? The young man suddenly asked, looking a little suspicious. He is still at the Alchemy Tower, but he said he'll return as soon as possible. Really? That isn't like him at all. In fact, I'm surprised he didn't ask for your sword on the spot. I don't know what happened at the Alchemy Tower, but it seemed very serious. Even the Array Tower's Tower Master was there. Then it must have been a really serious matter. Anyway, can I take a look at your sword? Of course, I just want to take a simple look. I don't dare to touch it before the Tower Master. He'd turn me into a sword if found out. Turning you into a sword? That's quite a weird thing to say, Yuan chuckled. I'm serious. It won't be the first time he's done it, either. Yuan raised an eyebrow and asked, Are you sure you can say that out loud to a stranger like me? What if I get the wrong idea? Like mistaking him for an evil practitioner? The young man laughed out loud. You must not be from around here. Practically everyone knows his obsession with the art of creation, so it's no secret. While he is a little crazy in the head and very eccentric, he's not evil. What about using human parts for creation? Alchemists who use humans to concoct pills are all considered evil, said Yuan. I know, but context is also important. For example, people donating their organs and people getting their organs forcefully harvested are two entirely different things, right? Well, most of our materials come from donations. While the process is still morally questionable, someone has to do it. Otherwise, we will never truly advance our crafts. Most of your materials? Then some of them were forcefully harvested? Yuan asked. The young man showed a stiff smile and said, We have accidents at work. I see. Yuan looked around the smithy and asked, Mind if I take a look? You can look at this in the meantime. He placed number 1 under heaven on the table. The young man's eyes lit up with a flicker of intense emotion, and his expression transformed, brimming with excitement that bordered on something almost resembling lust. While the young man was completely engrossed in admiring his sword, Yuan took the opportunity to investigate the smithy. As he looked around, the young man's claims were confirmed. Human organs were openly displayed, from bones to blood, scattered across workbenches and shelves. On some of the shelves that stored weapons, it was apparent that some were crafted using human materials just solely from their grotesque appearance. Yuan gazed at the weapons with disappointment etched across his face. Tian Qiyuan's passion for creation had been immense, perhaps unparalleled in the world, a driving force that had propelled him to become the god of creation. Yet, despite his obsession with crafting, he had never once considered using humans as materials for his treasures. However, it wasn't as though Yuan didn't understand the metal tower. Sometimes, in the pursuit of innovation, experiments are deemed necessary, and certain moral boundaries are inevitably pushed. Since most of the materials were donated, I guess I can't really blame them. Of course, that is only if he's telling me the truth, Yuan thought as he glanced at the young man. Meanwhile, news of the array tower being broken into finally reached Tower Master Gao. What? Someone broke into my floor. What happened to the formation protecting it? Tower Master Gao had to temporarily stop working on the alchemy tower's formation to inquire. It was forcefully destroyed. You mean someone managed to destroy my level 7 formation with brute force? Why would such a monster want to break into my place? Was anything stolen? We can't say for certain yet, but at a glance, nothing appears to have been stolen, the array master explained, his tone laced with confusion. It's almost as if the culprit broke in, looked around, and left without taking anything. Of course, the area near the door is a complete mess. Liao Tian had a bad feeling after hearing about this news, but he shrugged it off for now. I'll return to the array tower once I deal with the situation here, said Tower Master Gao. They were halfway finished removing the formation, after all. Yes, Tower Master. First the alchemy tower, now my array tower. What the hell is going on recently? Tower Master Gao mumbled with a pondering expression on his face, but he didn't linger too much on the topic, and continued focusing on the formation. Chapter 1786 Tower Master's Assassination. Chapter 1786 Tower Master's Assassination. News of the break-in at the array tower quickly spread throughout the city, shocking everyone. Yet, it almost became non-existent a few hours later when the incident at the alchemy tower began spreading a few hours later. After spending several hours working on the level 7 formation, Tower Master Gao and his array masters finally deactivated it, allowing them to open the door. However, when they finally managed to open the door and step inside, their expressions froze in shock at the gruesome scene before them. Moments later, the shock gave way to disgust as they began to grasp the horrifying reality of what had transpired in the room. The air grew heavy with a tense silence as they processed the grim sight. A crimson cauldron, nearly overflowing with blood, stood at the center of the room. Above it, lifeless corpses hung grotesquely, their presence casting long, morbid shadows. The unmistakable signs of evil practices were laid bare for all to see, leaving no doubt about the sinister activities that had taken place there. The room reeked of death and malice, making it impossible for anyone present to deny the truth. Tower Master Liao, what is the meaning of this? Tower Master Gao turned to look at Liao Tian with a grim expression on his face. Liao Tian frowned and said, "What are you trying to say? Are you telling me that you were not aware of this? Is this not why you urgently wanted us to access his room? Are you insane? How could I have possibly known about this? I came to you for help because I sensed something was amiss." Liao Tian sneered, denying all allegations. "Also, are you trying to say that I had killed him? Why would I bring so many witnesses with me if that was the case? No, I don't think you killed him. However, I think you knew of the alchemy tower's forbidden practices. There's even a good chance you were working together. After all, it's public knowledge that you use human remains to craft treasures. Spare me the allegations. While I work with human remains, they were all donations. What of those you personally killed? You think I don't know about that? They all made mistakes deserving of death. It's as simple as that, Liao Tian said, not denying it. Anyway, why don't we stop this pointless talk and figure out who killed Tower Master Ma? Tower Master Gao sneered, looked at his array masters and said, go contact the other Tower Master and let them know of the situation here. Yes, Tower Master. Soon news of Tower Master Ma's assassination spread like wildfire throughout the Alchemy Tower, leaving everyone in shock and disbelief. However, the revelation of the tower's forbidden practices was deliberately kept under wraps for the time being. The matter was deemed too sensitive and required further investigation before being exposed, as its implications could have far-reaching consequences for the tower, which could affect not just the seventh heaven but the 9 heavens as a whole. Although Tower Master Ma was stabbed in the heart, what truly caused his death was poison, an extremely deadly one that surpasses my knowledge, revealed the alchemist who examined his body. Even if his guard was down, it shouldn't be easy to kill Tower Master Ma. Yet all evidence shows that he was killed effortlessly, said Liao Tian. This seemingly flawless assassination reminds me of a certain individual, said Meng Xian. The entire floor suddenly turned dead silent. Why, you mean the Phantom Assassin? The Grim Reaper? Why would he kill? Tower Master Gao halted his sentence midway. There was no doubt that Tower Master Ma was killed for his crimes. Realizing this, Tower Master Gao looked at Liao Tian and said, you should probably watch your back. You're really begging for a beating, huh? Liao Tian frowned. Enough you two, said Lord Z. What should we do about the Alchemy Tower? What is there for us to do, anyway? We're not responsible for the Alchemy Tower. Even if it were to collapse overnight, it's none of our concern. Liao Tian remarked with a casual shrug. Tower Master Gao added, I don't want to admit it, but he's right. We may be known as the 5 Breakthrough Towers, but we're unrelated. Moreover, I doubt the Alchemy Tower will collapse over this incident. They'll just have to figure things out themselves. Knowing there was a strong possibility that the infamous Phantom Assassin was involved, nobody present showed any inclination to involve themselves in the Alchemy Tower's affairs. The matter was far too dangerous and delicate to meddle with, and it was true that the towers were not obligated to take responsibility for one another, as they were all separate organizations. Since there's nothing else for us to do here, I'll return to my tower now, Liao Tian said a moment later. Why were you looking for Tower Master Ma anyway? Lord Z suddenly questioned. I came to the Alchemy Tower for a different reason. You mean the individual who stole your treasure? Tower Master Gao said. Someone stole your treasure? Lord Z and Meng Xian raised their eyebrows. Liao Tian looked at them and suddenly smiled. That's right. In fact, he joined the Martial Tower and Cultivation Tower recently. Recently? The two of them frowned, as there was only one individual who joined both towers recently. You mean Yuan? You're saying he stole your treasure? I don't believe it. Lord Z was the first to doubt his claim. Believe what you want. Liao Tian shrugged as he left. I have to return to my tower as soon as possible. Someone broke into my place, said Tower Master Gao. Do you think it's related to this incident? Meng Xian asked. I hope not. What are you going to do? Tower Master Meng? Lord Z asked her once they were alone. I'll stay here to assist the Alchemy Tower, she said. I understand. Good luck. Lord Z left shortly after. Some time later, Liao Tian returned to the Metal Tower. However, just as he approached the entrance, he stopped abruptly, his senses picking up on a powerful presence emanating from the peak of the tower. This presence? There's no doubt, it's that treasure. Liao Tian exclaimed, his face lighting up with excitement. Without a second thought about the peculiar circumstances, Liao Tian hurried upstairs, driven by his excitement and curiosity, like a moth drawn to the flames. Chapter 1787 Fighting Liao Tian. Chapter 1787 Fighting Liao Tian. The treasure. Where is the treasure? Liao Tian bellowed as he flung open the large metal doors to his smithy with a resounding clang. Inside, the young man was still fixated on number 1 under heaven, his gaze locked onto the weapon as if bewitched. He had been inspecting it for hours, his expression a mixture of awe and obsession, utterly consumed by the masterpiece before him. When Liao Tian's eyes fell upon number 1 under heaven, His expression mirrored the young man's, filled with awe and fascination. He hurried over to the weapon, his hands trembling slightly as he hovered them above it, almost as if he yearned to touch it but didn't dare to. The sheer presence of the treasure commanded reverence, leaving him entranced. This is it. Liao Tian exclaimed, his voice trembling with excitement. This is what I've been searching for my entire life. The perfect weapon. The materials, the craftsmanship. It's beyond anything I've ever seen despite being a god of creation at one point. Just as Liao Tian reached to touch the sword, it suddenly moved on its own, flying away. What the fu? Liao Tian's gaze followed the sword until it landed in Yuan's grasp. Who are you? How dare you touch my treasure? Liao Tian roared after seeing the treasure being touched by someone who wasn't him. Your treasure? That's funny, considering I was the one who brought it here. Yuan responded with a smile. You must be Yuan. Liao Tian narrowed his eyes. And you must be Liao Tian. What happened to that man you sent after me? I killed him for failing to correct his mistake, he said. Is that so? At least he'll be more useful as a weapon. Hearing this, Yuan shrugged. I don't understand your obsession with human weapons. Not only do they lack elegance, but they're nothing special. Who the hell are you to question my creations? You're just a nobody who somehow acquired a masterpiece. I was once the god of creation. Yuan laughed out loud. The god of creation? With your level of skills? I doubt it. Liao Tian gritted his teeth and shouted. Hand over the treasure. You do not even qualify to touch it. If I, its master and creator, do not qualify to touch this weapon, then nobody in this world would qualify. Yuan's voice echoed calmly through the room as he revealed this information. You created that treasure? That's a sick joke. Liao Tian sneered, not believing him even for a split second. Even if it was a joke, it's not as sick as your hobby and evil practices. Evil? Just because I use unorthodox materials does not make me evil. You think I am only talking about your methods? I was told that most of your human materials were donated, but after inspecting the materials myself, I confirmed that most of them are actually forcefully harvested. That's slander and a baseless accusation. Where is your evidence? My evidence, huh? Yuan said with a calm yet chilling tone. Well, I've killed enough people to know the difference between someone who died a peaceful, natural death and someone who met a forceful, violent end. Moreover, the weapons you created are all screaming in agony. Though I doubt you can hear it. Liao Tian sneered, his expression filled with disdain. What kind of evidence is that? None of it is substantial or verifiable. Yuan smiled and said, You came from the alchemy tower, right? I'm sure you saw what happened to their tower master. Liao Tian instantly frowned. Don't tell me you were responsible for Tower Master Ma's death? And what if I was? Are you going to avenge him? Liao Tian retrieved a large blade and brandished it with a cold expression. The weapon's appearance was grotesque and unsettling. Its surface was textured like raw flesh, clearly crafted from human remains. It also radiated a sinister aura that caused the temperature in the room to drop significantly. Why would I bother avenging him? I was going to kill you anyway, regardless of whether you killed Tower Master Ma or not. Are you even capable of doing such a thing? Yuan mocked. You'll find out soon enough. Liao Tian swung his blade with a fierce motion, and in an instant, the weapon expanded dramatically in size and length. Although slightly surprised by the blade's sudden transformation, Yuan blocked the attack with relative ease. As soon as it was deflected, the grotesque weapon retracted, shrinking back to its original size. Its movements were unnervingly fluid, almost as if the blade itself were alive. Unlike ordinary weapons, weapons made from humans can grow stronger without needing refinement, Liao Tian said with a sinister grin. Not only that, they're truly alive. I don't know if you can hear it, but my weapon has a heartbeat. If you're so satisfied with your weapon, why covet mine? Yuan asked. You think I want it because I want to replace my sword? No. I am going to feed it to my creation so it can become truly flawless. Liao Tian laughed out loud. Yuan shook his head. I knew it was going to be stupid, but I didn't think it would be this dumb. Say whatever you want. That sword will be mine anyway. Having had enough of the farce, Yuan decided it was time to end things. Activating True Dragon Awakening, his aura surged, filling the room with an overwhelming presence. The battle afterward was swift and decisive, and within just a few minutes, Yuan completely overpowered Liao Tian. As Liao Tian lay on the ground, barely clinging to life, Yuan calmly approached the grotesque weapon. Looking down at it with a mixture of pity and disdain, he said, "I'll release you all now." "No." Liao Tian used what little strength he had left and uttered, but Yuan ignored him and destroyed the weapon. As Yuan destroyed the weapon, a faint, eerie noise echoed from the weapon, resembling a distant, anguished scream. The blade shattered into countless fragments, scattering across the floor. Liao Tian, witnessing the destruction of his prized creation, stared in disbelief. The shock was too much for his already weakened body, and with a final, shuddering breath, he succumbed to death. Chapter 1788 Phantom Assassin. Chapter 1788 Phantom Assassin. After killing Liao Tian, Yuan turned to look at the young man, who had been shivering in a corner since the beginning of their fight. Who are you?" he asked Yuan in a fearful voice. "Am nobody. Sorry you had to witness that. Unfortunately, your tower master was corrupt, so I had to get rid of him." After a moment of silence, the young man asked an unexpected question. "Is it true that you crafted that sword?" "Yes." The young man stopped trembling and nodded. "If the creator of such a pure and beautiful masterpiece says so, who am I to question you? If you say the heavens are corrupt, then the heavens are corrupt." Yuan could only chuckle at the young man's eccentric character. "Then I'll take my leave now." "What should I do now?" the young man asked. "Whatever you want," Yuan said as he activated Shadow Veil, disappearing from the metal tower. The young man stood there in a daze. He silently stared at Liao Tian's corpse for a moment before sighing and walking away. Soon, the top floor flooded with blacksmiths from the metal tower. News of Liao Tian's death quickly spread, shocking the world again. Tower Master Ma was assassinated recently, and now Tower Master Liao suffered the same fate? What in heaven's name is going on? More importantly, who is capable of killing two Tower Masters in such a short time? And why? They were both reputable and highly respected men. I wonder what the other Tower Masters are thinking right now. They are probably thinking if they'll be next. Sure enough, after they learned of Liao Tian's death, the remaining 3 Tower Masters gathered for a second time to discuss the situation. I had a feeling he'd be next, but why am I still shocked that it actually happened? Tower Master Gao sighed out loud. According to the witness who saw the whole incident, the killer was a young man, said Lord Z. However, when questioned about the killer's identity, the witness refused to explain further. It's truly bizarre. Why would the killer spare the witness anyway? How would that benefit him? Tower Master Gao asked. Maybe he doesn't care about being caught, Meng Xian said, her tone laced with unease. This is the Phantom Assassin after all. He wants us to know he's coming for us, to make us live in constant fear, cowering and dreading every second of our lives. Her words sent a chill through the room, causing Tower Master Gao and Lord Z to tremble. Do you really think this is the work of the Phantom Assassin? That he's really coming after our lives? Lord Z asked Meng Xian, who nodded with a serious expression. Yes, I am almost certain it's him. Lord Z sighed. Then there's nothing we can do but enjoy what little time we have left. What? You're not even going to fight back? Tower Master Gao frowned at such a response. Fight back? Do you even know who the Phantom Assassin is? Nobody has ever managed to escape once they enter his hit list. He's killed true immortals before, much less weaklings like us. I don't care who he is. I have done nothing to deserve this. I will not lie down and let him take my life. Tower Master Gao roared. If you have truly done nothing wrong, there's nothing to worry about. A fourth unfamiliar voice suddenly echoed through the room. The unexpected intrusion startled the 3 Tower Masters, their heads snapping in every direction to locate the source. None of them could sense any other presence besides their own, even now, which made the situation all the more terrifying. It made them feel vulnerable and exposed. Who's there? Lord Z shouted. After a few moments of tense silence, A shadowy figure began to materialize before them, emerging from the dimness as if he had been there all along. Yuan deactivated Shadow Veil at that point, revealing his identity to them. Why you're Yuan? Lord Z exclaimed. My successor? Meng Xian followed. Tower Master Gao raised his eyebrows in a puzzled manner. Wait, Yuan. You mean the one who stole Tower Master Liao's treasure? Yuan looked at him and smiled. That's what he told you? Well, it's a lie. What are you doing here, Yuan? How did you manage to get in here? Meng Xian asked the next moment. And what you said just now. You seem to know the situation. Lord Z added. Oh, I followed you guys here, so I have been here since the very beginning, said Yuan. He continued. I also know the situation. After all, I am the one responsible for the 2 Tower Masters' deaths. You what? They exclaimed simultaneously. There's no way you could have killed those 2. Stop joking and tell us the truth. Meng Xian said with a stiff smile. I am telling you the truth. I killed the Alchemy Tower's Tower Master by stabbing him in the heart from the back, and Tower Master Liao died after I destroyed his treasure. The room fell into a heavy silence as Yuan casually revealed details about the deaths of the Tower Masters. Details that had not been made public. Why did you kill them? Tower Master Gao suddenly asked. Are you asking me that because you really don't know? Or are you trying to confirm something? You should have seen the scene yourself. They committed crimes against humanity, so I punished them. Even if what they did was wrong, who are you to punish them? Are you trying to be a hero or something? A hero? No, I killed them for selfish reasons. I didn't like what they were doing, so I killed them. Or what? Are you telling me that I shouldn't have punished them? That's... Tower Master Gao became speechless. Yuan, you haven't answered one of my questions. Why are you here? Are you going to kill us too? Meng Xian asked a moment later. Who knows? Yuan shrugged. Chapter 1789, Exposing the Third. Chapter 1789, Exposing the Third. Who knows? This isn't the time for snarky remarks, Yuan. You've already killed 2 Tower Masters, Meng Xian frowned. Yes, and unfortunately, there will be at least another death. Tower Master Gao suddenly realized something and uttered. Wait, does this mean you suspect one of us is an evil practitioner like Tower Master Ma and Tower Master Liao? Yuan shook his head and said, There's no need for suspicions because I am already certain that is the case, and there could be more than one of you. That's outrageous. Do you have evidence? Lord Z exclaimed. Evidence, huh? I don't have any. However, I am suspicious of the Array Tower. What? Tower Master Gao's eyes widened at his words. Wait a second. You must be the one who broke into my place. Yuan nodded. I needed to make sure you were not involved with Alchemy Tower. After all, you assisted them with all sorts of formations, including the ones used to imprison humans. Naturally, the Array Tower provided its expertise not just to the Alchemy Tower, but to the other towers as well. Moreover, the formations in question had been established long before any of the current Tower Masters came into existence. However, as formations required periodic maintenance and repairs, there was a possibility that the Array Tower had uncovered, or at least become aware of the Alchemy Tower's misdeeds during these interventions. I know it looks bad on the surface, but I really had no idea about the Alchemy Tower's practices until recently. I knew they were doing something behind the scenes, but I never imagined it was something so evil. As for the formations used to imprison humans, we thought they were using it for magical beasts. At least that's what we intended them to do. They always empty the cells when we show up to do maintenance on them, too. Yuan stared at Tower Master Gao as he explained himself, but didn't say anything. This made Tower Master Gao extremely anxious. Unbeknownst to the Tower Masters, Yuan had long ceased suspecting the Array Tower. After breaking into Tower Master Gao's residence, he had found no evidence tying them to any wrongdoing. Everything he set up until now was just an act solely to lower the others' guards and observe their reactions. After all, he hadn't investigated the Martial Tower and Cultivation Tower. However, even without investigating these 2 towers, Yuan already knew which of the 2 he needed to kill. After a long moment of silence, Yuan smiled at Tower Master Gao and said, I trust you. Oh really? You're not pulling my leg? Tower Master Gao swallowed nervously. Despite being a Tower Master and Divine Sovereign, he felt powerless before Yuan, who was only a mere Spirit Sovereign. Yuan nodded before turning to look at Lord Zi and Meng Xian. Although I haven't investigated your towers properly, I doubt there will be any evidence. Fortunately for me, I already have the evidence I need. Yuan retrieved number 1 under heaven and pointed it at one of them. I didn't notice it at first because you hid it really well, but that's no longer the case, and I can sense it as clear as day. Did killing those two really rile you this much? Tower Master Meng? What? Tower Master Gao and Lord Zi followed the direction of Yuan's blade, which was pointed straight at Meng Xian. Why you think I am an evil practitioner? You cannot be serious. Meng Xian stammered, her voice unsteady as she visibly trembled. Evil practitioner? No, I think you're worse than that, you demon worshipper, Yuan said, his voice filled with disgust. What? Demon worshipper? Both Tower Master Gao and Lord Zi nearly jumped from shock. In the world of cultivation, two paths were universally condemned and labeled as evil by society. The first was the path of evil practitioners, individuals who defied human morals and engaged in heinous acts such as forbidden alchemy or cruel experiments. The second, even more despised, was the path of demon worshippers, those who betrayed humanity by aligning themselves with demons, forsaking their own kind for power. It's subtle, but I can sense the power of demons within your Dantian. You hid it well, but your emotions betrayed you. Now the question is, how are you related to the Alchemy Tower and Metal Tower? Since those two weren't demon worshippers but evil practitioners, I have a feeling you were the one who enticed them. That's what demon worshippers are good at, after all. Meng Xian clenched her fists and trembled in anger. I have had enough of your farce, Yuan. Tower Master Gao. Tower Master Zi. Are you really going to believe him? Why would I need the power of demons when I am already the Tower Master of the Cultivation Tower? That's outrageous. Tower Master Gao and Lord Zi exchanged glances with each other. Neither of them wanted to say anything, but they were both aware of Meng Xian's obsession with cultivation and immortality. They had known Meng Xian long before she ascended to the position of Tower Master. Initially, she lacked the qualifications and talent. However, her cultivation suddenly soared at an unprecedented rate, almost as if her latent talents had awakened overnight. This sudden and meteoric rise had surprised everyone, but no one questioned it, chalking it up to a rare stroke of fortune or an undiscovered potential finally blooming. Now, under Yuan's scrutiny, that sudden rise seemed far more suspicious. When it comes to enticing humans, demons typically promise unmatched power and immortality. While it's true that they can boost your cultivation and extend your longevity, there is always a drawback, a flaw. Yuan suddenly pointed 2 fingers at Meng Xian and muttered, "Reveal your true self, hateful demon." A golden light suddenly appeared from Yuan's fingers, shooting toward Meng Xian with blinding speed. It pierced through her chest and entered her heart, but it did not harm her. Instead, it roused the demonic energy hidden within her dantian. Meng Xian's body instantly began to heat up, an uncontrollable sensation spreading through her entire being. Panic flashed across her face as she roared, What did you do to me?" Yuan, remaining calm, responded in a nonchalant tone, "Just speeding up the inevitability." Chapter 1790 Spirit Enlightenment. Chapter 1790 Spirit Enlightenment. After being struck by Yuan's golden light, Meng Xian felt her blood begin to boil, an intense heat coursing through her veins. Her muscles twitched and squirmed uncontrollably, as though they were trying to break free from her skin. That power you accepted from the demon may have increased your cultivation and longevity, but it comes with a price. It will strip away your humanity. While you won't fully become a demon, you'll turn into something in between, something neither human nor demon. As Yuan spoke, Meng Xian's body began to contort unnaturally, her form twisting and shifting. Her white skin darkened in patches, and her beautiful features took on a grotesque, unrecognizable appearance. Regret flickered in Meng Xian's eyes. A fleeting moment of clarity amidst the chaos consuming her. However, it didn't last long. As her body continued to transform, her emotions and sanity were stripped away, leaving behind a hollow shell of what she once was. Her gaze turned vacant, and a primal, unrecognizable presence replaced her former self. Soon, her eyes became filled with rage and bloodlust. What a pity! Not waiting for Meng Xian to go on a rampage, Yuan activated True Dragon Awakening, and immediately began attacking her with Demon Sealing Aura. Several strikes later, Meng Xian was completely sealed, turning into a stone statue. I can't believe it. To think Tower Master Meng had been a demon worshipper this entire time. Tower Master Gao muttered, his eyes wide with disbelief. Sometime later, Yuan finished off the job. After killing Meng Xian, she unexpectedly dropped a demon core. Normally, this wouldn't be possible since only full-fledged demons have demon cores, but this was a trial created by the Stairway to Heaven. Yuan picked up the demon core, its dark and ominous energy radiating in his hand. He stared at it for a moment, his expression contemplative. Then, without hesitation, he tossed it into his mouth and consumed it. After consuming a demon core with energy equivalent to a divine ancestor, Yuan's cultivation soared an entire realm, entering the first level of spirit enlightenment. Moreover, all of the chaotic essence had consumed was replenished. As I thought, the chaotic energy within demons can be used to replenish my chaotic essence. Yuan muttered with a satisfied smile. By consuming the demon core, Yuan confirmed his suspicions that it replenished his chaotic essence, a rare and invaluable energy source within the 9 heavens. This realization meant that as long as he had access to demon cores, he could not only restore his chaotic essence, but also develop his chaotic heart even further. Oh, I only needed to pass a single trial this time? Congratulations, Master. Here is your reward. Tian appeared to personally hand him the reward for the first time. In her grasp was a long wooden box. Yuan accepted the box without hesitation and opened it immediately. Inside, nestled securely, were 5 distinct items. The first item was a golden pill. True Heavenly Pill. Tier 7, Purity, 95%. Effects. Greatly increases one's innate talents and cultivation speed. Its effects will only work once. The second item inside the box was a silver ore. It was clearly a material for crafting treasures. The third and fourth items were intricately rolled scrolls. Yuan picked them up one at a time, examining the titles inscribed on their surfaces. The first scroll was titled Shadow Puppet, while the second bore the name Shadow Extraction. A martial technique and a cultivation technique, huh? The fifth and final item was a thin, unassuming book with the title, A World of Darkness, ominously etched on its cover. After reading the first page, which was filled with array symbols, it became clear that it was a powerful formation. However, despite his knowledge, Yuan was unable to accurately determine its exact level. What he could deduce with certainty, though, was that it was at least a level 7 formation. By the way, your divine beast's friends, the dragon and serpent, have already passed their trials. They're waiting for you inside the Stairway to Heaven, Tian suddenly revealed. Yuan nodded and said, "Thank you. Should I take you to them now? Give me a moment." Yuan used this moment to consume the True Heavenly Pill and study the Shadow Puppet martial technique. I don't need the cultivation technique, but Ingzi might be able to use it to start her second cultivation. Although magical beasts typically avoided using human cultivation techniques due to their inherent incompatibility, it was not entirely unheard of. There were rare cases where particularly intelligent or adaptable beasts had managed to modify and adapt human techniques to suit their unique physiology. A few hours later, Shadow Puppet. Rank, Supreme, Mastery Level, 1 Description. This ability grants the user control over shadows, enabling them to manipulate and shape the darkness around them into powerful weapons. The shadows become an extension of the user's will, offering versatility in both offense and defense. Okay, I am ready, Yuan said sometime later. Tian teleported Yuan to the waiting room, where Lan Yingying and Shi Meili had been waiting since they finished their trials. Sorry for taking so long. I didn't think the trial would require so much time, he said to them. It's fine. I needed some time to digest what I learned from my trial, anyway, she merely said. Sometime later, Tian brought Yuan to the others. So what did you think? Yuan asked Tan Songyan, who was speechless at first. I don't know what to think. How much of what you showed me is real, anyway? While the trial isn't a perfect replay of history, it's true that those tower masters were all corrupted and the reason Tian Kai ended their lives. I have a lot of questions, but they can wait. I am still trying to process what I witnessed, she sighed. Yuan smiled. Take your time. Chapter 1791 Sixth Heaven. Chapter 1791 Sixth Heaven. After his conversation with Tan Songyan, Yuan was reunited with the others. Congratulations on your breakthrough to spirit enlightenment, young master. Feng Yuxiang said after seeing his growth. Yuan smiled and said, You've also grown much stronger yourself, Feng. In just a little over 2 months, Feng Yuxiang's cultivation had soared to the peak of spirit enlightenment. Naturally, this wasn't the result of any training, but just her sealed cultivation returning over time. Ingzi, here you go. Yuan handed the cultivation technique shadow extraction to Ingzi after seeing her. What is this? She asked with a nonchalant expression on her face. It's a cultivation technique meant for humans, but given your nature, there's a small chance you might be compatible with it. If you can cultivate it, you'll be able to create a dantian and have a second cultivation like myself. A second cultivation. I will try. Thank you. Ingzi accepted the cultivation technique. Now then, let's head to the sixth heaven. Yuan declared shortly later. Wait a minute. Tian suddenly stopped them. Master, before you head to the sixth heaven, there's something you should know. While you were in the middle of your trial, the Celestial Emperor sealed the entrance to the seventh heaven. Tian revealed this unexpected news to him. What? Yuan frowned, wondering if the Celestial Emperor had somehow learned about his existence. Does this mean I won't be able to enter the seventh heaven until he removes this seal? As the master of the stairway to heaven, you can naturally remove the seal and enter the seventh heaven. However, that would alert the Celestial Emperor. So I will have to either wait for the Celestial Emperor to remove the seal himself, or find another way to reach the seventh heaven. Huh? No. I have to enter the seventh heaven through the stairway to heaven, because I have to do the trials. How troublesome. Master can still take the trials even if you already ascended through another method, she revealed. I see. What about those who went to the lower heavens? How will they get back to the upper heavens? Yuan looked at Tan Songyan as he asked. The seal only affects those who wish to ascend, so it won't affect those who came from the seventh heaven. This isn't the first time it's happened, so it's not too weird. Tan Songyan suddenly joined the conversation. Huh? What do you mean? Yuan inquired. How much do you even know about the 9 heavens? Honestly, probably not as much as I should. She sighed and said, the 9 heavens is split into 3 levels, lower, middle, and upper. The first heaven to the third heaven is considered lower, and the fourth heaven to the sixth heaven is considered middle. While the first 6 heavens are relatively similar to each other, everything is vastly different in the seventh heaven and above. Many people consider the upper heavens to be the true cultivation world, the immortal realm, while anything below that is the mortal realm, and in order to not overpopulate the seventh heaven, the Celestial Emperor often places restrictions on it. The seal is one such restriction. How long do these restrictions typically last? Yuan then asked. It varies. Some last only a few years, while others have lasted for decades, even centuries. The situation in the upper heavens is also an important factor. Anyway, one primary reason the Celestial Emperor enforces these restrictions is because of resources. To ensure resources remain abundant, he limits the number of people who can access them. After all, what truly differentiates the upper heavens from the lower heavens is the quality and quantity of their resources. I see. Are you in a hurry to reach the seventh heaven? Tan Songyan asked. Yuan paused for a moment, contemplating her question before responding. While it won't kill me to delay my journey there, it'll definitely become more risky the longer I wait. In any case, Even if the seventh heaven wasn't sealed, I still need to take a look around the sixth heaven before I ascend. After all, there's a good chance I might find something related to my past lives there. I can figure things out when I intend to ascend. Since you came from the upper heavens, do you have any information on the sixth heaven? Any big events happening soon? Big events, huh? Tan Songyun began pondering seriously. A few moments later, she spoke with a serious face. Actually, there is one thing. Before I descended to the lower heavens to find you, rumors of a hidden domain being discovered in the sixth heaven were spreading. The rumors also say this hidden domain is very ancient, and likely dates back to the primordial era. Hidden domain? Yuan repeated in a mumble. Hidden domains are essentially secret realms, concealed for a multitude of reasons. Unlike legacy tombs, which are intentionally left behind to be discovered, hidden domains were never meant to be found. They are often remnants of real places that once existed in the nine heavens, but were deliberately hidden away, sealed, or forgotten for reasons unknown. Alright, then it's decided. I will take a look at this hidden domain, he declared a moment later. Tan Songyun had no objections, as she was also interested in the hidden domain, and would have likely visited it if she hadn't had to find Yuan. Good luck, master. Tian bid them farewell, before teleporting them out of the stairway to heaven. Once they entered the sixth heaven, Yuan and his group made their way to the nearest city to gather more information on the hidden domain. It didn't take long for them to gather information about the hidden domain, as it was the talk of the streets. Nearly every passerby and group they overheard were discussing it with excitement, speculation, and even caution. Did you hear? The recently discovered hidden domain turned out to be a sect from the primordial era. What was the name again? The Immortal Monastery. What? Immortal Monastery? Yuan's eyes widened with disbelief after hearing this familiar name. Chapter 1792 Hidden Domain. Chapter 1792 Hidden Domain. Did they just say Immortal Monastery? Or was I just hearing things? Yuan turned to look at Tan Songyun and asked for confirmation. They definitely said Immortal Monastery. Why? Do you recognize the place? Tan Songyun asked. Although the Immortal Monastery was once one of the most renowned sects in existence, it has not been seen since the primordial era. Its disappearance over countless millennia caused its name to fade from memory, making it unsurprising that most people in the present day were unaware of its legacy, or even its existence. Yes, I recognize it. After all, I used to be a disciple there. Young master, Yuning suddenly called out to him. In case you don't remember, Jiran used to be a sect leader at the Immortal Monastery. I remember, he said. He recalled Jiran mentioning it during their first encounter in the Shadow Realm. Fate is really scary. Yuan muttered with a bittersweet smile on his face. Sometime later, Yuan approached some of the pedestrians to learn more about the hidden domain. After speaking to a dozen people, he learned that the hidden domain was discovered around 4 years ago, but it wasn't opened until very recently due to the powerful formations protecting it. Once the hidden domain was opened, several scouts were sent inside to investigate. According to their reports, the domain housed none other than the Immortal Monastery, one of the most ancient and powerful sects in history. The discovery sent ripples throughout the nine heavens, as the Immortal Monastery was a legendary sect that had vanished since the primordial era. Its reappearance promised untold treasures, profound techniques, and secrets long thought to be lost to time. Once news of the Immortal Monastery reached the upper heavens, it sparked a frenzy. Influential backgrounds wasted no time mobilizing their experts, sending them to the sixth heaven in droves. Prestigious sects, prominent families, powerful factions, and even hidden backgrounds emerged from the shadows, all eager to explore the legendary Immortal Monastery. According to the scouts who entered the hidden domain, the place hasn't fully opened yet, and they were only able to reach the sect's entrance before being blocked by a barrier. After gathering enough information, Yuan made his way to a private room in a nearby restaurant. The room was quiet and secluded, offering a perfect space for discussion while they relaxed. Yuan retrieved Baneful Abyss, so he could speak with Jiran. Jiran, you were the sect leader of the Immortal Monastery at one point, right? Yes, I was the fourth sect leader in history. Did you know of a disciple named Tian? Jiran pondered for a moment before responding. No, I am not familiar with that name. However, it's been countless years, so my memories may not be reliable. Then do you know what happened to the Immortal Monastery, or how it became a hidden domain? Jiran sighed and said, the Immortal Monastery was one of the top sects during the primordial era. While the amount of sects back then wouldn't hold a candle to the sects available today, we were much more competitive. We participated in the heavenly war of immortals and gods, and went against the celestial emperor, which was the beginning of our downfall. According to what I was told by those who survived the war, the Immortal Monastery went into hiding after I was banished to the Shadow Realm. And as far as I was aware, they never emerged again. What are the chances the Immortal Monastery survived to this day? Yuan wondered out loud. 0. After all, they disappeared during the primordial era. How many years do you think have passed since then? A sect needs to continuously recruit disciples and earn resources to survive. Even if they tried to do it in secrecy, there's no way they managed to survive this long without exposing themselves. To secretly recruit disciples and earn resources for hundreds of millions of years without exposing themselves was statistically impossible. Moreover, they were already on the verge of collapse before going into hiding, Jiran added. So what you're saying is the Immortal Monastery should still have their treasures and techniques? Tan Songyan said. Jiran nodded. Young Master Yuan, if it's the sect's techniques you want, I have most of them in my head, including the most valuable ones. I can give them all to you if you want. Yuan shook his head and said, I don't really care about the techniques or treasures. One of my past lives was a disciple of the Immortal Monastery, and I believe we'll be able to learn more about him if I go there. What? You used to be a disciple at my sect? Jiran's eyes widened with shock after hearing this news. Yes. Although I don't have much of his memories, I know that had spent most of his earlier years there. Do you remember the name of the sect leader when you were a disciple? Jiran asked. No, I do not. That's a pity. Yuan turned to look at Tan Songyan and asked, what is the accessibility like for hidden domains nowadays? Can anyone just enter them? Of course not. Hidden domains are owned by those who discovered them. In this instance, it was found by someone from the Heavenly Beast sect, so they get to decide who enters and who doesn't. So I need to give this Heavenly Beast sect a visit first, huh? Do you have any information on them? They're one of the top sects in the 6th heaven, and they specialize in taming magical beasts, she said. But that's the extent of my knowledge of them. It's fine. We can learn more about them when we visit them. Let's finish eating first. After finishing their meals, Yuan and his group departed for the Heavenly Beast sect, situated at the border between a vast, empty plain and the towering mountain ranges. The travel took several days, and when they finally arrived at the Heavenly Beast sect, they were met with the sight of a massive sea of people gathered outside the sect. Chapter 1793 Limited Slots. Chapter 1793 Limited Slots. There are so many people here. She merely swallowed nervously. What was truly awe-inspiring about the crowd wasn't its sheer size, but the overwhelming number of experts it contained. The majority of those present hailed from powerful sects and prestigious families, each sending their most accomplished members to represent them. Not wanting to show any disrespect to the Heavenly Beast sect, these factions had ensured that only their best and brightest were in attendance. As for those from the upper heavens, most of them were directly sent inside the sect without needing to wait around. How does one receive permission to enter the hidden domain? She merely then asked. In most cases, you pay the party with ownership, said Tan Songyan. I wonder how much ITLL cost. Seeing how many are interested, I'm willing to bet ITLL be expensive, she merely sighed. Let's enter the line first, Yuan said a moment later. Soon they entered the massive queue. After waiting in line for about an hour, a young woman wearing a unique uniform approached them. Hello, can you tell me your background? I am from the Heavenly Beast sect, said the young woman. We're a group. My name is Xiaoyang, and I am from the Celestial Overlords. Yuan decided to use this as his primary identity for the time being. See Celestial Overlords? the young woman exclaimed with a startled face. When those around them heard the woman's voice, they all turned to look at Yuan, who was still wearing a mask. Even Tan Songyan was staring at him with wide eyes. What are you doing? To impersonate someone from the celestial overlords. Are you seeking death? Tan Songyan shouted at him through voice transmission. Yuan ignored her and showed the young woman his faction symbol. Please follow me, esteemed guests. The young woman bowed to them. Tan Songyan wore a dumbfounded look on her face, as she didn't expect Yuan actually to be part of such a famous faction. Yuan looked at Tan Songyan and smiled. Is it worse than impersonating a dragon emperor? He asked her through voice transmissions. Tan Songyan could only remain speechless. Sometime later, the female disciple brought them to a luxurious building and said, Please wait here for a moment. One of our sect elders will come to speak with you as soon as possible. After leaving Yuan's group, the female disciple immediately went to notify the sect elder responsible for receiving guests from the upper heavens. What? Someone from the celestial overlords is here? That's impossible, said the sect elder. Why is it impossible? That person showed me the celestial overlord's faction symbol, explained the disciple. It's impossible because people from the celestial overlords already visited us, and there were 4 of them. Why would the celestial overlords send 2 groups separately? That's... The disciple fell silent. Whatever. I will see them myself. If he turns out to be an imposter, I'll notify the real member. The sect elder didn't wait around and immediately left. Sometime later, the sect elder arrived at Yuan's guest house and knocked on the door. You must be the sect elder. She merely opened the door. Yes, I am Elder Pan. Are you the guest from the celestial overlords? The sect elder asked in a respectful tone. Although he was suspicious of their identity, he had to remain cautious just in case it was a misunderstanding. She merely shook her head and said, No, he's inside. I am his traveling companion. The sect elder entered the building and followed Chimeli to the living room, where Yuan and Tan Songyan were sipping tea. Welcome to our humble heavenly beast sect, esteemed guests. I heard from my disciple that you're from the celestial overlords. I apologize in advance if this is a misunderstanding, but a group of individuals from the celestial overlords has already visited our sect. Is that so? Although I am from the celestial overlords, I am visiting for personal reasons, so it's not like I was sent by my faction. Yuan showed him his faction symbol and rank. I was recently recruited by celestial overlord Chang, so my rank is lacking. You were personally recruited by a celestial overlord? The sect elder swallowed nervously after hearing this. If you don't believe me, I can contact her for you, Yuan said. And he even has direct access to her. The sect elder cried inwardly. And no, it's fine. I believe you. I apologize for doubting your identity. Don't worry, I understand. The celestial overlords have sent 4 people to explore the hidden domain, huh? They must sent one from each faction, Yuan thought to himself. Anyway, I am here to request permission to enter the hidden domain. How do I acquire it? About that, the hidden domain has limited spots, 20,000 spots to be precise, so there's fierce competition for them. Limited spots? This is news to me. We just found out ourselves. Moreover, this is a rule within the hidden domain, so it's not something we made up to drive up the price. I apologize for any inconvenience. I see. And how many slots have been taken so far? A little over 19,000. So there are less than 1,000 spots left, huh? So, how much does the Heavenly Beast sect want for an entry? Although entry to the hidden domain would likely come at an exorbitant cost, Yuan wasn't overly concerned about being unable to afford it. Unfortunately, we are unable to directly sell you a slot right now. However, we will take your offer into consideration and give you an answer next month. So the highest bidder wins, Yuan mumbled. He began counting the number of slots he needed. Xiaohua, Feng Feng, Ingzi Meili Yingying Yuning, will those living within my soul weapons need a slot? He turned to look at Tan Songyan and asked, Do you also want to enter? Of course, but you don't need to pay for my slot. I'll handle it myself, she said. All right. My little brother. Chapter 1794 Offers for the Slots. Chapter 1794 Offers for the Slots. Yuan looked at Elder Pan and asked, I happen to wield a soul weapon that contains a spirit. Will that count as a slot? Only those who will be participating will take up a slot, so unless the spirit within your soul weapon wishes to participate, they won't take up a slot. This is true for everyone else too. Also, you won't be able to use any treasures as a participant, including your soul weapons. Can you elaborate? What is considered participation? Elder Pan proceeded to explain. According to the rules of the hidden domain, those who will become disciples are considered a participant. We don't have much information about the details since nobody has entered the hidden domain yet, but we believe the main theme of this hidden domain is roleplay, and we'll be roleplaying as disciples of the Immortal Monastery. Some hidden domains are structured around a specific theme, much like the trials Yuan had encountered within the Stairway to Heaven. These themes often dictate the nature of the challenges within the domain, such as tests of strength, wisdom, or even teamwork. I see. In that case, Yuan mumbled. Feng, do you wish to participate? He asked her. Although it sounds fun, I will remain a spectator this time, she said, not wanting to waste a precious slot. What about you, Yingzi? I will participate. Ying? I would also like to participate. Do you want to participate as well? Yuan asked Shimeli. She looked at Elder Pan and asked, Is the hidden domain dangerous? I'm sorry, but I genuinely do not know. Elder Pan shook his head. Some hidden domains are rife with peril, filled with deadly traps, fierce beasts, and trials that test one's very limits. Others, however, are serene and peaceful, offering a haven for cultivation or exploration. Unfortunately, there is no way to truly discern the nature of a hidden domain until one steps inside. While the Heavenly Beast Sect had managed to access the hidden domain, their exploration had only reached the entrance. The true nature and contents of the domain remain shrouded in mystery. It's better to assume that the place will be dangerous, said Yuan. Shimeli pondered for a moment before nodding. All right, I'll participate. What about you, Yuning? Yuan asked her next. I'm okay being a spectator, she said. Yuan retrieved Baneful Abyss and asked Ji-Ran next. Since you were once the sect leader of the Immortal Monastery, I assume you want to participate? If you don't mind letting me participate, I would love to do so, he said. Sure. After counting, Yuan said, I will need 5 slots. As for my offer, he began pondering what he should offer the Heavenly Beast Sect for these slots. How about this? He retrieved a handful of leaves and even some liquid from the golden celestial tree. These belong to a golden celestial tree that is several million years old. Elder Pan's eyes widened with excitement after seeing this. Young master, in order to secure our spot, how about giving him some of my phoenix blood? Feng Yuxiang suddenly said. Are you sure? Of course. Now that my bloodline is no longer cursed, I essentially have an unlimited supply of phoenix blood. Giving them a few drops won't hurt me in the slightest, she said. All right. Thank you. Yuan then said. I will also offer a few drops of phoenix blood from a royal bloodline. Phoenix blood from a royal bloodline? Elder Pan stood up from shock, his eyes wide with disbelief. Are you serious? If you have a method to examine the blood, I wouldn't mind letting you examine it. Yuan nodded. Although Feng Yuxiang never claimed to possess a royal bloodline, it was almost certain that her lineage surpassed even the most exalted royal bloodlines. As a direct descendant of the primordial phoenix, she carried the purest and most ancient phoenix bloodline. Although we do not have something like that, we have something that can evaluate a bloodline's grade, said Elder Pan. In that case, I would also like to offer some of my blood, Shimeli suddenly added. I'm actually a dragon with a royal bloodline, and am willing to add some of my blood to the offer. Shimeli had hidden her horns and tail to appear less conspicuous, so Elder Pan did not know she was a dragon until it was mentioned. Why, you're a dragon. Elder Pan fell back down from shock. To prove her identity, Shimeli partially transformed, revealing her horns, tail, and scales. Please wait a minute. I will contact our sect leader right now. He will be able to guarantee you those slots. Take your time. Yuan nodded with a smile. Elder Pan left the guest house and rushed to the sect leader's side to notify him of Yuan's offer. In addition to leaves and liquid from a golden celestial tree that is several million years old, he's also offering the blood of a dragon and phoenix, ones with a royal bloodline. The sect leader of the Heavenly Beast sect almost couldn't believe his ears after hearing such a generous offer. Are you sure you heard him properly? I swear I'll skin you alive if it turns out to be a misunderstanding. I swear on my life, Elder Pan reassured. Bring me to him. I must speak with this individual myself. Elder Pan hurriedly returned to Yuan's guest house with the sect leader following behind. My name is Bao Shuya, and I am the current sect leader of the Heavenly Beast sect. It's a pleasure to meet you, esteemed guests. Regarding your offer, once we confirm the phoenix blood and dragon blood's quality, we will immediately give you 5 slots for the hidden domain. Sure thing. Yuan nodded. Please follow me. Sect leader Bao guided Yuan and his group to another building. Inside, the room was filled with intricate devices specifically designed to evaluate the grade and purity of beast bloodlines. I'll go first, Shimeli said. Chapter 1795 Heavenly Beast Sect. Chapter 1795 Heavenly Beast Sect. Please place your hands inside the device, said Sect Leader Bao, his hands gesturing at the device before him. Shimeli approached the device and placed her hands on it. Soon, her body became enveloped by a soft red glow. Imperial grade. Your bloodline is Imperial grade, which is definitely classified as a royal bloodline. Sect Leader Bao exclaimed in excitement. He turned to look at Yuan and asked, Where is the phoenix blood? If the phoenix is not here, we will have to use another method to evaluate the blood. The next moment, Feng Yuxiang emerged from Yuan's dantian, startling Sect Leader Bao. Did she just come out of your dantian? Sect Leader Bao exclaimed, his voice filled with shock and disbelief. That's only possible if the two of you are in a contract. His wide eyes darted between Yuan and Feng Yuxiang. The idea of a human forming a contract with a phoenix, especially one with a royal bloodline, was almost unimaginable. Yet, it appeared to be a reality right before him. Feng Yuxiang ignored Sect Leader Bao's shocked state and walked to the device to grade her bloodline. A few moments later, her body was enveloped by a golden glow. Divine grade. Sect Leader Bao gasped, his eyes and jaw wide with shock. However, Feng Yuxiang didn't appear to be happy about the results. Is it because my bloodline is still recovering? As a primordial phoenix, my bloodline should be supreme grade, she wondered inwardly. After snapping out of his daze, Sect Leader Bao swallowed nervously before asking, how many drops of blood will you be offering for the slots? Feng Yuxiang narrowed her eyes at Sect Leader Bao, her gaze sharp and calculating. After a moment of tense silence, she raised her hand, holding up 2 fingers. Shimeli then spoke. I will offer 3 drops. Sect Leader Bao pondered with a serious expression on his face before responding. I would like to request another drop of your phoenix blood. In exchange, I will no longer ask for the leaves and liquid from the golden celestial tree. Feng Yuxiang's blood was far more valuable and beneficial to the Heavenly Beast sect than the golden celestial tree, so Sect Leader Bao's request was very natural. What do you think, young master? Feng Yuxiang asked for Yuan's advice. I'll let you decide. It's your blood after all. Then I'll accept your offer. Feng Yuxiang retrieved an empty vial and filled it with 3 drops of her blood. Shimeli did the same. Thank you very much, esteemed guests. This is your proof of entry to the hidden domain. Please do not lose it because we won't be able to replace it. Sect Leader Bao handed Yuan 5 wooden badges with the words Immortal Monastery engraved onto them, as well as a communication jade slip. They were found by the entrance to the Immortal Monastery. Hence how we figured out there would only be 20,000 available slots, he added. Thanks. Yuan accepted the badges and tossed them into his spatial ring. When will we be able to enter the hidden domain? Yuan then asked. Once we fill up the slots by the end of the month, we will notify you through the communication jade slip. Currently, we intend to enter the hidden domain within 3 months. 3 months, huh? That's quite long. If you'd like, you can stay in the Heavenly Beast sect as our guest in the meantime. Yuan nodded. That would be great since we don't really have a place to stay at this moment. Then it's settled. Just a heads up, there are other participants living in this area, and we do not tolerate any fights between participants. You don't need to worry. We don't know anyone, so we have no reason to cause any trouble. Sect leader Bao nodded. He proceeded to guide them back to their living quarters. Then I'll leave you alone for now. If you need anything, we have servants on standby outside. He gestured toward the individuals wearing a specific uniform walking around the place. Wait, I also want to give you an offer for a slot. Tan Songyan suddenly stopped him. What? Sect leader Bao looked at her with raised eyebrows and a puzzled expression. Although we're traveling together, I am going to pay for my own slot, she explained. Is that so? Since I am already here, I will listen to your offer. Tan Songyan proceeded to retrieve a scroll from her spatial ring and handed it to him. Sect leader Bao didn't think much of it and opened it. However, when he read the contents of the scroll, his eyes widened with shock and disbelief. This is. Is this real? Tan Songyan remained calm and said, What would I gain from lying to you? She showed her faction symbol, revealing her background. Vengeful fairies. He began contemplating shortly later. After a moment of heavy silence, he finally made his decision. Reaching into his robe, he retrieved another wooden badge and extended it toward Tan Songyan. I'll accept your offer. Thank you. Tan Songyan casually accepted the badge. Sect leader Bao shook his head. No, I should be thanking you. He quickly stored the scroll inside his spatial ring, even looking around to make sure nobody else saw it. After he left, Yuan asked Tan Songyan in a curious tone. What did you offer him? Let's just say it will benefit the Heavenly Beast sect greatly if they are able to acquire it. Yuan raised an eyebrow and guessed. A treasure map? Good guess, but you're wrong. Are you really going to keep it a secret? Does it annoy you? I can't say that I am not curious, but I won't lose any sleep not knowing. Is that so? Tan Songyan didn't say anything else and returned to the building. Yuan could only shake his head inwardly and follow her inside. 3 months, huh? What should we do in the meantime? She merely asked once they were inside. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Chapter 1796 Heavenly Beast Sect 2. Chapter 1796 Heavenly Beast Sect 2. You guys can do whatever. I'm going to cultivate, said Tan Songyan. She pointed to a certain room and continued. I'll be staying in there. Don't bother me unless it's an emergency. After saying that, Tan Songyan entered the room she picked. It's not easy getting along with her, she merely sighed. I'm sure she'll open her heart more as she comes to trust us. Yuan said with a calm and reassuring tone. Anyway, it's only 3 months. I don't really have anything in mind, so we'll probably just cultivate. When Yuan mentioned he would cultivate, he wasn't referring to increasing his cultivation, but rather to strengthening his soul strength. While his soul cultivation technique passively enhanced his soul strength over time, actively cultivating it allowed for much greater and faster progress. In that case, I'll take a look around the Heavenly Beast Sect. This is my first time visiting a human sect, much less one that focuses on taming magical beasts, said she merely. Have fun, and try not to cause any trouble. I'll go with her. Feng Yuxiang suddenly emerged from his dantian and said, All right. Are we going now? Feng Yuxiang asked she merely a moment later. Yes. Wait, I also want to come. Lan Yingying suddenly appeared and said, The more the merrier. She merely chuckled. Thus, Feng Yuxiang, Lan Yingying, and she merely left the building to explore the Heavenly Beast Sect. Once they left, Yingzi appeared and said, I am going to try to cultivate with the cultivation technique you gave me. Sure. If there is anything you don't understand about the technique, let me know. Yingzi nodded, and she sat on the ground with the cultivation technique in her grasp. While Yuan cultivated his soul strength and Yingzi started learning the cultivation technique, she merely and her group approached one of the Heavenly Beast Sect's servants. Excuse me, we would like to take a look around the Heavenly Beast Sect. Would that be fine? She merely asked the young servant. Of course. However, you will need a sect elder to accompany you at all times. Do you see that tall building there? You can find someone to accompany you there. The servant pointed at the pagoda not too far in the distance. I see it. Thank you. Sometime later, Shimeli and the others entered the pagoda. Inside, several individuals with a powerful presence were present, and they were all speaking with a sect elder of the Heavenly Beast sect. Noticing Shimeli's group, a female sect elder approached them and asked, "Hello, are you here for a guide?" "Yes, would like to take a look around the sect." "I understand. Please follow me." The sect elder brought them to a nearby empty desk. "Before we assign you with someone, is there any specific place within the sect you would like to visit?" "Not really. What about you guys?" Shimeli asked the other two. "I don't really care either." Feng Yuxiang said. Lan Yingying then said, "I would like to learn more about taming in general. How do normal cultivators and their contracted beasts typically act?" "Oh, are you looking to become a beast tamer yourself?" the sect elder asked, misunderstanding Lan Yingying's intentions. "Something like that, I guess." Lan Yingying decided to go along with the sect elder. "In that case, we can give you a full tour around the Heavenly Beast sect. Please give me a moment to see if any guide is available." A few moments later she spoke. "I'm sorry, but all of our guides are currently attending to other guests. I can put you on a waiting list for now, and will contact you as soon as the next guide becomes available." "Sure." Shimeli nodded. "Are you currently residing within the sect?" the sect elder then asked. "Yes, we're staying at Building 909. In that case, we will send the guide straight to your building whenever we have one." "Okay, thank you." Shimeli and the others returned to their living quarters and waited for their guide to show up. A few hours after they returned home, someone knocked on their door. "Excuse me. I am here as your guide." A woman's voice loudly resounded outside. "Already?" Shimeli was pleasantly surprised by how fast the guide showed up. When she opened the door, a woman with red and yellowish hair greeted her. "My name is Hong Ling, and I will be your guide." Shimeli and the others gathered outside. When Hong Ling saw Feng Yuxiang, she hastily approached her and said, "It's an honor to meet you, Senior Phoenix." Feng Yuxiang raised an eyebrow and asked, "Do I know you?" "No, but the sect leader, my master, told me about you." Hong Ling explained, her tone filled with a mix of excitement and awe. "I am actually a beast with the Crimson Raven bloodline," she added. After hearing about Feng Yuxiang, Hong Ling wanted to meet her immediately. However, Hong Ling didn't want to appear nosy, so she spent a good amount of time wondering how she should approach Feng Yuxiang. After learning about their situation, Hong Ling immediately volunteered to be their guide. No, she demanded to be their guide. "I see. Nice to meet you." Hong Ling's eyes sparkled with a mix of excitement and reverence, her demeanor resembling that of a fangirl standing before her idol. Crimson ravens were powerful magical beasts, highly respected for their mastery of fire. Though they were not true phoenixes, their abilities and lineage placed them in close relation. Often considered distant cousins of phoenixes, Hong Ling retrieved a flying treasure that was an enormous crimson feather with a flourish, her excitement palpable as she exclaimed, "I heard you wanted to learn more about beast taming. Don't worry, I'll make sure you know everything there is to know about our path before this tour ends. We'll be in your care." Feng Yuxiang nodded as she stepped onto the flying treasure. Shimeli and Lan Yingying followed. Chapter 1797 Heavenly Beast Sect 3. Chapter 1797 Heavenly Beast Sect 3. While we travel to our destination, allow me to tell you about our Heavenly Beast Sect's history. Our foundation, said Hong Ling. The Heavenly Beast Sect is one of the most ancient sects within the sixth heaven, dating all the way back to the Immortal Monarch's era. We were founded towards the end of the era, shortly after the Divine Heavens was split. Our founder, who had formed a contract with 3 divine beasts, was titled Savage Beast King. 3? That's impressive, said Feng Yuxiang. Yet it pales in comparison to your master, who has contracted a phoenix with a divine-grade bloodline. Feng Yuxiang lifted her head slightly in a prideful manner and said, My master is unique. You shouldn't compare him with anyone because it would only make the other party look bad. What's your relationship with your master like? Lan Yingying suddenly asked. I think it's a pretty ordinary relationship. I met him 600 years ago when he climbed the Crimson Mountain just to meet me. I admired his dedication, and he was quite talented, so I agreed to form a contract with him for a decade to prove himself, that he was worthy of becoming my partner. And as you can see, I am still here even after 600 years. What do you typically do as his partner? Lan Yingying then asked. We can absorb our master's cultivation? This is the first time I've heard about this. Lan Yingying's eyes widened. Whenever he's busy managing the sect, I spend most of my time cultivating. When he has to leave the sect, I will follow him as his guard. When he gets into a fight, I become his weapon. Although he can fight, most beast tamers are typically weaker than their beasts. Why are they usually weaker than their partners? Lan Yingying asked, her eyebrows raised in a puzzled manner. Wouldn't it make more sense if the master was stronger than the follower? After all, who'd want a weak master? That may be how you humans, people who are not beast tamers, see it, Hongling began with a knowing smile. But most beasts enter a contract with the intent of becoming stronger. If the master fails to provide their contracted beast with enough resources or opportunities to grow, the beast will leave them. Of course, this only applies to consensual contracts, where both parties willingly agree to the partnership. As contracted beasts, we can also absorb some of our master's cultivation, Hongling continued. This is one of the main things most contracted beasts demand from their masters. It's a mutually beneficial exchange. While the master gains a powerful ally, the beast can grow stronger by sharing in their master's progress. We can absorb our master's cultivation? This is the first time I've heard about this. Lan Yingying's eyes widened. What? You didn't know this entire time? I assumed you were just being humble. Feng Yuxiang looked at her with a surprised face. If you're wondering why I never asked the young master to share his cultivation with me, it's because my cultivation is already much higher than his, and cultivation isn't the reason I formed a contract with him. I really didn't know. Though even with that knowledge, I have no intention of asking you, the young master, for his cultivation. Lan Yingying almost subconsciously called Yuan by his name. Wait, you're a magical beast as well? I couldn't tell at all. Hongling stared at Lan Yingying with a shocked face. Even in their human form, most beasts typically cannot completely mask their beastly scent or identity as a beast, especially from other beasts. Hongling immediately recognized Feng Yuxiang, and she merely as divine beasts the moment their distinct scent reached her. However, when it came to Lan Yingying, her scent and demeanor gave no such indication, making her appear essentially human in Hongling's eyes. Now that you mentioned it, I never realized this. Feng Yuxiang muttered after hearing Honglinger's words. It likely has something to do with my bloodline, but I am not certain, said Lan Yingying. Are you also a divine beast? Hongling looked at Lan Yingying in a new light. Yes. Amazing. To have contracted 3 divine beasts. It's just like our founder. Actually, I am not in a contract with Xiaoyang, she merely suddenly said with an awkward smile on her face. I'm just traveling with them. You might as well form a contract with the young master, Meili. I know you want to. Feng Yuxiang looked at her with a smug-looking smile on her face. She merely showed a bittersweet smile and said, I do, but I also don't want to at the same time. If I form a contract, our relationship would be akin to master and servant. I don't want that. I want to stand beside him as someone more significant. Feng Yuxiang raised an eyebrow and commented, You mean like his Dao companion? Meili's face immediately flushed with redness. While it's true that our contract defines us as master and servant, what truly matters is how you and your master perceive your relationship. Hongling explained with a warm smile. For example, my master and I are like best friends. I don't feel like a servant at all. Her words carried a sense of pride and affection, emphasizing the importance of mutual respect and understanding in such bonds, even when the terms of the contract suggested otherwise. She's right, you know? Also, the young master isn't that kind of person. I've been with him for years now, and he's never once treated me like a servant, Feng Yuxiang added. I know he isn't that kind of person, and I am aware that this is a mindset issue on my part. Once I can get over it, I'll ask him for a contract, she merely said with an eager smile. If you don't mind me asking, what kind of person is your master? What made you want to follow him? Hong Ling asked a moment later. I'm glad you asked. Feng Yuxiang's face lit up with excitement after hearing this question. Chapter 1798 Heavenly Beast Sect 4. Chapter 1798 Heavenly Beast Sect 4. My young master is not only the most talented individual in the 9 heavens, but he is also the kindest, most handsome, coolest, unrivaled. Feng Yuxiang began complimenting Yuan non-stop after Hong Ling asked about him. If Hong Ling wasn't aware of her relationship with Yuan in the beginning, she would have mistaken her as some obsessive crazy lady. Why, you're really passionate about your master, huh? Hong Ling said with a stiff smile. If she hadn't interrupted Feng Yuxiang, heaven knows how long she would have kept on mumbling. Of course I am. The young master not only changed my life, he practically saved it. What about you, Senior Lan? Hong Ling turned to look at Lan Yingying next. You can just call me by my name. I am actually much younger than you. No, I cannot do that. Even if you were just born yesterday, you have seniority over me as a divine beast, as I am only an ordinary magical beast. If that's what you want to do, I won't say anything else. Anyway, I followed the young master for an entirely different reason. Although he did save my and my family's life, that wasn't the reason I wanted to follow him. Also, while I did have my own desires to follow him, it was mostly my grandparents' advice and persuasion that made me actually do it. As I continued following him, my desire to stay together with him grew stronger. Now, I don't want to be separated from him at all. Most importantly, I am going to be giving birth to his child in the future. What? You're bearing your master's child? Hong Ling cried out loud, nearly falling off the flying treasure from shock. She opened her mouth again, but no words came out. She was going to question Lan Yingying's reasoning for bearing a human's child, but she refrained herself, realizing it would be disrespectful. Once I fully regain my strength and is worth more to the young master, I will also ask to bear his child. Feng Yuxiang declared with a determined look on her face. What? But you're of royal bloodline. Are you even allowed to conceive with a human? Won't that significantly degrade your bloodline? Hong Ling couldn't stay silent after hearing Feng Yuxiang's outrageous declaration. In their world, royal bloodlines are considered sacred and are strictly protected and regulated by the royal families of their respective races. Degrading or defiling a royal bloodline is regarded as an unforgivable act of blasphemy, often punishable by death. I don't care about that. It's not like I am associated with the royal families. I will conceive with whoever I want, regardless of what anyone says. If anyone dares to try and stop me, I will simply kill them all. Feng Yuxiang sneered. Hong Ling shuddered in fear when she sensed Feng Yuxiang's killing intent from her narrowed eyes. It suddenly became dead silent, and it stayed like that for the remainder of the ride. Fortunately, they were already almost at their destination by then, so it was only a few minutes of silence. Okay, we have arrived at our first destination. Our Heavenly Beast Sect's magical beast breeding ground, Hong Ling said, gesturing toward the massive expanse of land before them. This is where the sect breeds and nurtures magical beasts for its disciples. While it's not a requirement to have a contracted beast to join the sect, all disciples are expected to form a contract with a beast within 10 years of enrollment. The area resembled sprawling farms, each section dedicated to breeding and raising various types of magical beasts. The air was filled with the sounds of creatures, and the energy in the atmosphere was vibrant. Our disciples are encouraged to explore the world and form a contract with a wild magical beast. If they are unable to do that, they can try to form a contract with a beast here. We have over 1,000 different species of magical beast, including some rare ones like the obsidian bull, jade rabbit, and the red-horned wasp. However, Hong Ling continued, these magical beasts are not free, nor are they available to every disciple. Only those who demonstrate promise and earn enough points are allowed to form a contract with the beasts here. Points can be earned by completing sect missions, or through accomplishments that enhance the sect's reputation. It's a way to ensure that only the most dedicated and capable disciples gain access to these valuable resources. As for the beasts, we either capture them directly from the wild or purchase beast eggs from the market. Capturing wild beasts isn't too difficult, but the real challenge lies in training them to be obedient. She paused for a moment before continuing. As for beast eggs, they're a different story. They're incredibly rare and not always available for purchase, even if you have the resources. This place took countless resources and an unfathomable amount of time and effort to become what it is today, Hongling said, her voice brimming with pride. Can we take a look around this place? Feng Yuxiang asked, her tone curious. Hongling immediately offered an apologetic smile and said, about that. Normally we'd allow it, but because of your bloodlines, I'm afraid your scent would terrify the beasts. It could cause a panic, and that would be disastrous. Oh, what a pity, Feng Yuxiang said with a soft sigh, shaking her head in clear disappointment. Despite her reaction, there was no trace of blame in her expression toward Hongling. She understood all too well the impact of their powerful bloodlines as a phoenix and a dragon. Such a presence would undoubtedly terrify the magical beasts in the breeding grounds, especially since these creatures were likely more mentally fragile than their wild counterparts. It's understandable, she added softly, her tone accepting. Thank you for your understanding, Hongling said with a grateful smile. Let's head to our next destination. It's where our disciples, who have been approved to form a contract with the beasts here, perform their ritual. As a matter of fact, we happen to have someone preparing to perform the ritual soon. They sped off to their next destination shortly later. Chapter 1799 Heavenly Beast Sect, 5. Chapter 1799 Heavenly Beast Sect, 5. After traveling for half an hour, they arrived at their next destination. Hongling made the flying treasure descend before saying to the others, "You can follow me." Lan Yingying and the other two followed Hongling into the large square building that only had a single floor before them. Greetings, Senior Hong. The guards standing by the entrance greeted with lowered heads as they opened the door for them. Good work, she said to them. The interior of the building was stark and empty, its design emphasizing functionality over aesthetics. The walls were crafted from a durable metal commonly used in the creation of treasures, giving the space an aura of resilience and strength. Additionally, several intricate formations were embedded into the walls and floor, their faint glow indicating their activation. HM? If it isn't Senior Hong, what brought you here today? A sect elder there noticed her and asked. I'm here as a tour guide, and I want to let them watch the ritual. There's one happening soon, correct? Yes, and you're just in time. We're currently waiting for the magical beast to be brought in, which should only take a few more minutes, said the sect elder. Standing by the sect elder was a young male disciple, clearly eager to be there. It's an honor to have my ritual witnessed by Senior Hong. The disciple bowed. Hongling acknowledged him with a silent nod before turning to Feng Yuxiang and the others. During the ritual, the disciple must fight the magical beast and earn its acknowledgement, Hongling explained. Most magical beasts that lack the capability to speak or think like us must be defeated in battle to earn their acknowledgement, she continued. It's a way of proving one's strength and qualifications to the beast. Of course, there are rare cases where a magical beast willingly forms a contract without needing to be dominated, but such instances are exceedingly rare and almost unheard of. Also, even if the disciple defeats the magical beast, it doesn't guarantee the beast would acknowledge the disciple as its master. With that being said, we have a very high success rate of around 95%. If the magical beast rejects the disciple, we will simply find another one for him, and every disciple will be given 3 chances. About 10 minutes later, a magical beast was led into the building. It was an earth-shattering ape, a formidable and rare magical beast renowned for its immense strength and robust physique. With a height of 4 meters, its muscular frame radiated power, and its deep, glowing eyes scanned the room with a mix of curiosity and wariness. Feng Yuxiang and the others had to move to a separate area before the earth-shattering ape arrived because of their bloodline, and they were currently watching everything behind a glass wall in a sealed spectator's room. ensuring that the ritual couldn't be disturbed in any manner. The ritual will begin once I remove its shackles, the sect elder said to the disciple, who nodded with a nervous smile on his face. A few moments later, the shackles were removed from the earth-shattering ape. Yet, it didn't immediately move and turned to look at the sect elder. Seeing this, the sect elder turned to the disciple and pointed at him. Is he worthy to be your master? Go find out, she said firmly. As if it understood her words, the earth-shattering ape nodded slightly before locking its gaze on the disciple. Without hesitation, the beast leaped toward him, its robust frame cutting through the air with incredible force. The ritual had officially begun. The disciple immediately poured every ounce of his strength and focus into the battle, determined to prove himself worthy. He fought the earth-shattering ape with the intensity of a life-or-death struggle, dodging its crushing blows and counterattacking with his own martial techniques. Despite the fierce exchange, the disciple carefully avoided striking the beast's vitals to avoid killing it by accident. The battle raged on for nearly 3 grueling hours, each moment filled with thunderous blows that would have destroyed the building if it weren't for the reinforced walls and formations. The earth-shattering ape, with its immense strength and durability, proved to be a challenging opponent for the disciple, a young genius with a cultivation at the peak of spirit enlightenment. But as time wore on, the beast began to falter. Its once commanding presence started to waver, and its silver fur became matted with sweat and stained with its own blood. Finally, with a resounding thud, the ape fell to its knees, its breathing ragged and heavy. Despite its exhaustion and injuries, the beast's eyes still glimmered with a sense of pride and acknowledgement, as though it had tested the disciple and found him worthy. The atmosphere in the room was thick with tension and awe as the disciple, equally battered but unyielding, stood before the beast, awaiting the final sign of submission. After a moment of heavy silence, the earth-shattering ape lowered its massive head, a clear sign of acknowledgement. The room seemed to hold its breath as the beast extended a finger to one of its wounds, gathering a drop of its own blood. Seeing the earth-shattering ape's gesture, the disciple wasted no time. He immediately activated a unique technique, his hands glowing faintly as he infused the beast's offered blood with his own. A wave of energy surged through the room as their blood merged, forming a mystical bond that tethered their souls together. Symbols began to appear in the air around them, shimmering briefly before vanishing into their bodies, signifying the completion of the contract. The earth-shattering ape let out a low, rumbling growl, not of defiance but of acceptance and excitement. The disciple, now connected to the beast, knelt respectfully before it, silently thanking the powerful creature for its trust. The ritual was complete, their partnership officially forged. So that's how magical beasts typically form a contract with humans. Mine was vastly different. Lan Yingying muttered as she recalled the moment she formed a contract with Yuan. Join privilege for ADV chapter. Chapter 1800 Heavenly Beast Sect 6. Chapter 1800 Heavenly Beast Sect 6. Different. How? Hong Ling inquired after hearing Lan Yingying's mumble, her face filled with curiosity. I consumed some of my master's blood and initiated the contract myself, she explained. That's what I did too. Feng Yuxiang added. I see. Well, there are several methods to form a contract, and divine beasts are inherently different. So it's not that weird your method was different, said Hong Ling. As for our heavenly beast sect, this is how we teach our disciples. Also, we're not done yet. Hong Ling shifted her attention back to the earth-shattering ape and the disciple, who were silently staring at each other, almost as if they were communicating through voice transmission. Several minutes later, the disciple's aura suddenly weakened, and his cultivation, which was at the peak of spirit enlightenment, suddenly dropped to the 7th level of spirit enlightenment. Meanwhile, the earth-shattering ape, which was at the 5th level of spirit enlightenment, suddenly soared to the peak of spirit enlightenment. While the master only lost 2 levels, the servant's cultivation increased by 4 whole levels. This is why magical beasts willingly form contracts with humans. Hong Ling said. Can the servant forcefully take the master's cultivation? Lan Yingying asked. Yes, it's possible, and it has happened before, albeit rarely. What typically leads to such an outcome? Shimeli asked next. In my experience, such incidents only occur when the beast is severely neglected or abused by its master. After all, forcefully taking their master's cultivation significantly reduces the beast's own longevity, so it doesn't truly benefit much from doing so. What happens to the master? Shimeli asked. Most die shortly after having all of their cultivation forcefully removed. Some have managed to live a few more years, but I don't know anyone who has managed to live a normal life afterward. With a heavy sigh she spoke, yes, it's also possible. However, it rarely happens because when a human takes our cultivation, even if it's only slightly, our longevity will decrease. Lan Yingying then asked, if the beast can take their master's cultivation, can the master do the same to their beast? Hongling fell silent after hearing such a question. With a heavy sigh she spoke, yes, it's also possible. However, it rarely happens because when a human takes our cultivation, even if it's only slightly, our longevity will decrease. In cases where a human forcefully takes their beast's cultivation, Hongling continued, her tone turning somber, the human doesn't lose their longevity. However, over time they start losing their sanity, and if they do it too many times, they eventually become beast-like themselves. She paused for a moment before adding, that said, humans can get away with doing it a few times without immediate consequences. It's not a fair system, but that's just the way it works. Has it happened in the Heavenly Beast Sect before? Feng Yuxiang suddenly asked, her tone curious yet serious. Which? Hongling inquired hesitantly. Either, she clarified. Hongling sighed deeply, her expression tinged with reluctance. I probably shouldn't say this, but there's no point in hiding it since it's already public knowledge, she admitted. Yes, we have had such incidents before both ways. However, these incidents occurred during the sect's earlier days, when we didn't know much and weren't teaching our disciples properly. We haven't had such incidents in centuries. Anyway, let's talk about something less depressing. Once a disciple successfully forms a contract, they will have to spend the next year building a bond with their beast. Let me show you. They left the building shortly after, and Hongling led them to their next destination on the flying treasure. Sometime later, the group arrived at a vast expanse that closely resembled the untamed wilderness. Rolling hills stretched into the distance, dotted with dense patches of forest and rocky terrain. The air was filled with the sounds of nature, birds chirping, leaves rustling, and the occasional roar of a magical beast echoing in the distance. Disciples who have recently formed a contract with their beasts will spend a month here. During that time, they'll do whatever is necessary to strengthen their bond with their partner. Whether it's casually strolling together to build trust or engaging in battles with other magical beasts to grow stronger together, Hongling explained. While the goal is to strengthen their bond, there's always a chance the opposite might occur. For instance, the disciple might come to realize that the beast is incompatible with them, or they may notice issues that weren't immediately apparent at first. This actually happens quite often. When they do, it's up to the disciple and the sect to decide the next steps, whether it's continuing the partnership or seeking a more suitable match. Building a bond isn't just about strength, it's about compatibility and mutual growth. I must say, I'm very impressed with the Heavenly Beast Sect. I have been to several sects that focus on beast taming before, but none of them are as organized and dedicated as you guys, Feng Yuxiang said. Hongling's face brightened at her compliment. Thank you very much. You have no idea how much that means to me, and the sect. This isn't even half of our sect. Come, let me show you more. She eagerly led them to the next destination. When they reached their next destination, a sprawling training ground divided into several distinct areas. Hongling gestured toward the open space and said, "This place is for sparring and combat training. Disciples and their beasts come here to learn to fight together and prepare for real battles. If you'd like, we can let you experience what it feels like to fight a beast tamer and their partner." Really? I'm interested. Shimeli was the first one to volunteer. In fact, she raised her hand almost immediately. Hongling nodded before scanning the training ground, her gaze darting between the disciples and their beasts to find a suitable sparring partner for Shimeli. "I know you're only a divine warrior, But the weakest magical beast currently available is at the 7th level of Divine Master. If you would like a weaker opponent, we can set that up for you. No, a Divine Master is fine, Shimeli responded with a confident and excited smile on her face. Chapter 1801 Heavenly Beast Sect, 7. Chapter 1801 Heavenly Beast Sect, 7. Very well, then I'll set it up for you immediately. Please give me a few moments. Hong Ling jumped off the flying treasure and descended into the area with the disciple and the 7th level Divine Master Beast. You want us to spar with a divine beast, a dragon to the boot? The female disciple's eyes widened after hearing Hong Ling's suggestion. What do you think? Want to experience fighting a dragon? The disciple turned to her beast, a purple-scaled long tail. This imposing creature had a sleek, armored body covered in shimmering purple scales that gleamed under the light. Its tail, exceeding 6 meters in length, swayed slowly behind it. The beast's piercing red eyes locked onto its master, exuding an air of intelligence and loyalty, yet carrying a hint of wild ferocity. After a brief moment of silence, the purple-scaled long tail suddenly let out a loud, resonant battle cry. The sound echoed across the training ground, drawing the attention of nearby disciples and their beasts. Its piercing red eyes gleamed with excitement, and its long tail lashed the ground rhythmically, creating small shockwaves with each impact. Seeing the beast's reaction, the disciple nodded at it with a smile before turning to face Hong Ling again. Well, spar with the dragon, she declared. Okay, I'll be right back. Hong Ling returned to the flying treasure and announced the disciple's decision to Shimeli, who followed Hong Ling to the arena shortly after. Lan Yingying and Feng Yuxiang remained on the flying treasure, which hovered above the arena, giving them a perfect view as spectators. When Shimeli landed gracefully before the disciple and the purple-scaled long tail, the beast's demeanor changed instantly. Despite its earlier confidence and excitement, its natural instincts betrayed it. The overwhelming presence of Shimeli's dragon aura caused the purple-scaled long tail to tremble visibly, its tail curling slightly in a defensive posture. Its piercing red eyes, once filled with ferocity, now reflected hesitation and fear as it instinctively lowered its head, acknowledging the dominance of the mighty bloodline before it. Even the disciple couldn't help but feel the weight of Shimeli's presence, though she tried to maintain her composure. It's a pleasure to meet you. Am Shimeli a dragon? Once the disciple introduced herself, Hong Ling stepped forward and addressed both parties with a clear, authoritative tone. The match will end once Senior Shi or the purple-scaled long tail is deemed incapable of continuing to fight or if one side chooses to surrender. Whenever you are ready, Shimeli beckoned them. In response, the disciple jumped back, distancing herself from the fight. Meanwhile, the purple-scaled long tail stepped forward, standing between Shimeli and its master. Shimeli remained still, clearly letting the disciple make the first move. Realizing this, the disciple commanded the beast through their master-servant connection, which allowed them to communicate with their mind, similar to voice transmission. But unlike voice transmission, their conversations could not be intercepted, making it impossible for one to eavesdrop. Upon receiving its master's command, the purple-scaled long tail immediately sprang into action. Its long, powerful tail whipped forward with precision like a mighty spear. The beast jabbed repeatedly at Shimeli from a distance, skillfully utilizing the tail's impressive length to keep her at bay while maintaining a safe range. Shimeli casually dodged the purple-scaled long tail's relentless strikes, her movements minimal yet precise, as though she were merely toying with her opponent. Noticing her beast's attacks were ineffective, the disciple's eyes narrowed. Unexpectedly, she began to draw array symbols in the air. Within moments, the sky above them filled with glowing level 2 array symbols, forming an intricate formation. The disciple wasted no time and activated the array, directing it toward Shimeli's feet. Golden chains emerged from the ground, their shimmering surfaces radiating power as they wrapped tightly around Shimeli's ankles. Seeing the opportunity, the purple-scaled long tail intensified its assault, its tail jabbing with greater speed and ferocity, aiming to exploit Shimeli's seemingly restrained state. However, Shimeli's calm expression didn't waver. With a single decisive step, She shattered the golden chains as if they were nothing but fragile glass, the broken fragments dissolving into the air. The disciple's eyes widened briefly in surprise at how effortlessly she merely had destroyed her level 2 formation. However, she quickly composed herself, her hands moving deftly through the air as she began creating a new set of array symbols. This time, instead of targeting she merely directly, the disciple focused on supporting her beast. The formations glowed brightly as they activated, enveloping the purple-scaled long tail in a radiant light. The beast's movements grew noticeably sharper, its strikes faster, and its aura more oppressive. Its already formidable strength seemed to double, and its speed became a blur as it resumed its assault on Shimeli with renewed vigor. Once she had seen enough, Shimeli began her offense. Dragon transformation, 25%. The moment Shimeli activated her transformation, an overwhelming surge of energy erupted from her body. Her aura skyrocketed, blazing like a beacon as it soared toward the heavens. The sheer intensity of her presence rippled through the air, sending waves of pressure cascading across the arena. The purple-scaled long tail froze mid-attack, its red eyes widening in fear as its instincts screamed at it to submit or flee. The disciple stumbled backward, beads of sweat forming on her forehead as she struggled to keep her composure. This is the power of a dragon's bloodline, she muttered, her voice tinged with awe. Here I come, she merely declared with a confident and thunderous voice that echoed throughout the arena. With astonishing speed, she pounced toward the purple-scaled long tail, her arm pulled back in preparation for a devastating strike. Beautiful golden scales shimmered across her arm, reflecting the light like molten gold, adding to the spectacle of her overwhelming presence. The purple-scaled long tail's red eyes widened in panic as it lashed out its tail in a desperate attempt to fend off Shimeli. However, with a swift mid-air spin, she narrowly dodged the attack. Before the beast could retract its tail, Shimeli's other hand shot out, firmly grabbing hold of it. Using the momentum of the tail's motion, she propelled herself forward like a missile, closing the gap between her and the beast in an instant. Shimeli's fist connected with the purple-scaled long tail's back with a thunderous crack that echoed across the arena. The sheer force of the impact sent shockwaves rippling through the air, and the ground beneath the beast shattered from the intensity. The purple-scaled long tail let out a pained cry as its massive body slammed into the ground, creating a small crater where it landed. Dust and debris rose into the air, obscuring the scene momentarily, but the beast's anguished roar made it clear how devastating the blow had been. The disciple, frozen in place, could only watch in shock and disbelief. The sight of her beast, a creature known for its durability and strength, crumpling under Shimeli's single strike, left her utterly speechless. Chapter 1802 Heavenly Beast Sect, 8. Chapter 1802 Heavenly Beast Sect, 8. After delivering her powerful strike, Shimeli gracefully leaped backward, creating some distance between herself and the purple-scaled long tail. Although her attack had undoubtedly dealt a significant blow, Shimeli knew it wasn't enough to defeat the beast. As the dust and debris settled, the purple-scaled long tail came into view, its massive body trembling as it struggled to rise. Its purple scales glistened with sweat and blood, and a large, jagged crack marred its back. Despite its injuries, the beast let out a low, guttural growl, its red eyes burning with determination. It planted its claws firmly into the ground, lifting itself inch by inch, refusing to yield despite the pain racking its body. Hearing the purple-scaled long tail's determined cry, the disciple clenched her fists tightly and quickly snapped out of her daze. "It's not over yet," she shouted. Without hesitation, the disciple began gathering her spiritual energy, the air around her rippling with power. Her hands glowed faintly as she focused her energy, directing it toward her beast. Threads of spiritual energy, vibrant and pulsing with life, flowed from her body to the purple-scaled long tail, wrapping around it like shimmering ribbons. The beast roared as it absorbed the energy, its cracked scales starting to shimmer faintly with a new vitality. Its injuries didn't fully heal, but its movements grew steadier, and its aura surged as it stood tall once more, defiance burning in its crimson eyes. "No, this isn't enough." The disciple gritted her teeth and continued to channel almost all of her spiritual energy into the beast, causing its aura to soar even further, surpassing its original strength. However, after giving most of her spiritual energy to her beast, the disciple fell to her knees from exhaustion. "Oh, you can do something like that? How interesting," she merely muttered in a somewhat surprised tone. This was her first time fighting a beast tamer, so she was still unfamiliar with their methods. Despite her exhaustion, the disciple pushed herself to continue as she instructed the purple-scaled long tail for their next move. The beast let out a thunderous roar before leaping high into the sky. As it reached the peak of its jump, its crimson eyes locked onto Shimeli. Without hesitation, the purple-scaled long tail opened its massive jaws, releasing a barrage of shimmering projectiles. Each projectile radiated with a faint, fiery glow, crackling with explosive energy as they rained down toward Shimeli in rapid succession. As the barrage of projectiles descended upon her, Shimeli remained unfazed, standing her ground with unwavering confidence. She didn't even attempt to dodge the attack, allowing the fiery projectiles to collide directly with her body. Each impact exploded with a resounding boom, sending shockwaves rippling through the arena. However, to Shimeli, the force of the attacks felt no more harmful than mere ant bites. Her golden-scaled body easily absorbed the energy from the blasts, leaving her completely unscathed. The disciple's eyes widened in disbelief as she watched Shimeli stand unshaken amidst the barrage. Impossible. Those projectiles have enough power to shatter mountains. Once the barrage ended, Shimeli dusted off her golden scales with a casual motion, her expression calm yet filled with an air of dominance. "Is that all?" Shimeli asked, her calm yet sharp voice cutting through the tense atmosphere like a blade. Her golden gaze locked onto the purple-scaled long tail, as it landed heavily on the ground. The beast growled lowly, its pride wounded by her words. "Then I should end this soon." Dragon transformation, 50%. Shimeli's aura soared even higher, and her power doubled within the blink of an eye. The purple-scaled long tail trembled uncontrollably, caught between awe and fear as Shimeli's oppressive presence bore down on it like a towering mountain. Yet it wasn't alone in its fear. The presence Shimeli exuded extended far beyond their arena, affecting even the other magical beasts in the vicinity. Beasts with far higher cultivation than the purple-scaled long tail were visibly shaken, their heads lowered, and their tails tucked in submission. "Let me show you a real breath attack," Shimeli declared, her voice resonating with power as she swiftly gathered her spiritual energy. The golden scales on her body began to glow brilliantly, radiating an overwhelming heat that caused the air around her to blur. A swirling orb of light began forming before her open mouth, small but intense, as if it were a condensed star ready to unleash its fury. The purple-scaled long tail froze, its instincts screaming at it to escape, but it was too afraid to move, keeping it rooted in place. The disciple's eyes widened in shock, her voice caught in her throat as she watched the scene unfold. In a flash, the small orb transformed into a dazzling beam of golden light, roaring through the arena with unstoppable force. The ground beneath its trajectory cracked and burned, leaving a deep scar in its wake as it flew directly at the purple-scaled long tail. The beast tried to react, raising its tail as a shield. Upon contact, the golden light exploded, creating a shockwave that reverberated throughout the arena, sending dust and debris flying everywhere. When the dust settled, the purple-scaled long tail was sprawled on the ground, its tail scorched and its body motionless, overwhelmed by Shimeli's devastating attack. "Chongwei!" the disciple screamed in a terrified voice, her knees hitting the ground as she rushed to her partner's side. The beast, despite its battered and motionless appearance, let out a faint growl, signaling that it was still alive. Shimeli then spoke. "Relax, I held back as much as I could. The damage will heal in a few days with some recovery pills." Her attack had been controlled, meant to incapacitate without causing permanent or grievous harm. Otherwise, the beast would have been erased from existence. The disciple looked at Shimeli with a thankful expression. Thank you." Shimeli shook her head before clasping her hands together and bowing to them. "I should be thanking you for the valuable experience. Thank you." Chapter 1803 Heavenly Beast Sect 9. Chapter 1803 Heavenly Beast Sect 9. That was a great match. Shortly after the match ended, Hong Ling entered the stage and clapped with a satisfied smile. Disciple Dong, your strategy wasn't bad, and you used your beast's advantage correctly. Unfortunately, your opponent was too overwhelming, so don't kick yourself over this defeat. I want. The disciple nodded. Here, take this pill to recover your spiritual energy. The other pill is for your partner. Hong Ling handed 2 pills to the disciple. Thank you, Senior Hong. The disciple accepted the pill and consumed one, feeding the other to her beast. The pill was incredibly effective, and within moments, the beast could stand again. Senior Shi, I apologize for underestimating you, Hong Ling said a moment later, bowing deeply to Shi Meili with an expression of both awe and humility. With your prowess, you could probably fight 2, maybe even 3 realms above your own cultivation. I've always known dragons were powerful, but to witness such overwhelming strength firsthand is truly humbling. Shi Meili's golden gaze softened slightly as she looked at Hong Ling. There's no need to apologize, she said calmly, her aura now subdued. As a matter of fact, I also underestimated my opponent. Are all beast tamers also array masters? Hong Ling shook her head. No, but many try to become array masters because that would allow them to support their partners more efficiently from the backlands. Meanwhile, some beast tamers like to fight alongside their partners. It all depends on the individual's style. What about that power-sharing trick at the end? Can all beast tamers do that? Shi Meili continued to ask. Yes, all beast tamers have the capability to share their spiritual energy with their contracted beast, temporarily boosting the beast's fighting prowess. However, it comes at a cost. It exhausts the master, leaving them far more vulnerable in battle, so it's only used during desperate life-or-death situations or official matches like the one you just had, where 2 beast tamers fight through their beast only. Sometime later, Shi Meili and Hong Ling returned to the Flying Treasure, and Hong Ling resumed their tour of the Heavenly Beast Sect. Over the next several days, Hong Ling showcased almost every aspect of the sect's operations, culture, and teachings. Hong Ling also shared various methods that the sect employed to strengthen the connection between tamers and their beasts. These included spiritual bonding exercises, shared cultivation sessions, and even rituals that involved synchronizing their spiritual energy flows. By the end of their tour, Shi Meili and Lan Yingying had developed a good understanding of the intricacies of beast tamers and their own roles. And that marks the end of our tour. Although short, it was an honor to be your guide. I hope I have managed to satisfy your curiosity and taught you something new. But if you still have questions, don't hesitate to ask them, Hong Ling said to them as they returned to their living quarters. Thank you for the tour. I have learned far more than I anticipated, Lan Yingying said. Looking back at my own position and experience, I don't think I could even be considered a proper contracted beast. Hearing this, Hong Ling dismissively shook her hand. Actually, you shouldn't apply our logic to your own. At the end of the day, we mainly deal with magical beasts. As a divine beast, your experience and methods should be different. Moreover, there are things that you as a divine beast can do with your master that normal magical beasts aren't capable of doing. If you want to learn more about divine beasts as contracted beasts, you should consider visiting the Divine Beast Sanctuary in the Upper Heaven. They're a small but elite group of beast tamers, and every single one of them is contracted with a divine beast. Divine Beast Sanctuary? Feng Yuxiang suddenly muttered, raising an eyebrow. A faint smirk tugged at her lips as she continued. I remember them. They're a bunch of annoying bastards who kept pestering me to join them in the past. As for the divine beasts there, they're even worse. Most of them have inferior bloodlines, yet they all act high and mighty, as if they stand at the peak of their bloodline. Hong Ling could only manage a stiff smile in response to Feng Yuxiang's bold words. For her, the Divine Beast Sanctuary was an almost mythical place, one far beyond her reach or comprehension. You're really something, Senior Feng, she finally said, trying to mask her envy. For someone like me, the Divine Beast Sanctuary is a place of legends. The thought of rejecting their invitations is unfathomable. Once they finally returned to their guest house, Hong Ling said, I'll take my leave now, but if you wish to contact me for anything, you can use this communication Jade slip to contact me. She handed Feng Yuxiang her communication Jade slip. Okay. Once again, thanks for the tour. Feng Yuxiang accepted the Jade slip with a smile. After Hongling left, they entered the building. Welcome back. Yuan, who was cultivating in the living room, said to them, Young master, I missed you. Feng Yuxiang had the desire to leap onto him after being separated for a few days. How was your tour around the Heavenly Beast Sect? He asked. We learned a lot about beast tamers, Lan Yingying said. There was so much I didn't know about my role as your contracted beast that I feel ashamed. Yuan chuckled and replied, There's no need to worry about your role. Contracted beast or not, you're a precious companion of mine. Just keep being yourself. I knew you'd say something like that, but I want to support you properly, Lan Yingying sighed. Despite following you for years, I haven't really done anything befitting of my role. Not wanting to dismiss her feelings, Yuan asked gently, Then what do you want to do? Let me hear it. Lan Yingying wore a perplexed expression on her face, and she responded with a defeated sigh, Honestly, I don't know. You're so much stronger than me. Strong enough to overwhelm opponents that could easily kill me. I don't know how I can fulfill my role as your contracted beast properly. Chapter 1804 Heavenly Beast Sect 10. Chapter 1804 Heavenly Beast Sect 10. I understand your feelings, Yingying, but being a contracted beast is more than just about fighting. Yuan spoke after hearing Lan Yingying out. When I was the Immortal Monarch, the 9 Divine Supremes barely stood in the front lines, and I fought most of my enemies on my own. But that didn't mean they were useless or didn't fulfill their role. Everyone has their own role. For example, the Shadow Dweller rarely fought but specialized in information gathering. The Celestial Turtle spent most of its time serving as my flying treasure and living quarters as we traveled the starry sky. The Divine Yin-Yang Crane, the laziest of all, spent most of its time sleeping. Instead of focusing on how you can assist me in battle, you should try to figure out the kind of role you want to play as my contracted beast. Even if you don't have any specific role, I will never see you as useless or a burden. My own role, Lan Yingying muttered with a contemplating expression on her face. That's right, Feng Yuxiang suddenly joined the conversation. In my case, I see myself as our group's finance expert and wallet. If you ever need money, you can always come to me. Yuan raised an eyebrow at her words and asked, Our wallet? Since when? I decided that just now, she proudly announced. Doing business was just a hobby, something to pass the time while I figured out how to remove my curse, and I have more money than I ever need, so I might as well put it to good use. Although Feng Yuxiang certainly had enough wealth to serve as the group's financier, Yuan wasn't lacking either, with piles of treasures and precious materials at his disposal. Although I don't know how I feel about using you as a wallet, there is something I would like you to do for me using your expertise as a business expert, Yuan said a moment later. Can you help me sell all of these treasures and materials that I have been collecting? He showed all of the treasures had collected over time, from treasures he looted from his enemies to materials he found in the primal expanse. Wow, there's enough to open a store. Feng Yuxiang swallowed nervously after seeing the massive pile of treasures before her. Are you in a hurry to sell them? She then asked. No, you can take your time selling them. If it's too much, you can just sell the most valuable treasures, he said. No. This is something you entrusted me to do. I will sell every single treasure here, even if some of them are only worth less than a single spirit stone, she declared. Thank you. Since we still have plenty of time before the hidden domain is accessible, I'll start selling the treasures now. Feng Yuxiang said. How do you intend on doing that? She merely asked out of curiosity. I can easily hand off most of these treasures to auction houses and sell them that way, but that would be too easy, and we won't be getting the full value of these treasures. In that case, I'll open a store and sell them myself. Opening a store? You make it sound so easy. She merely said. That's because it's easy. Do you want to come and experience it yourself? I can use a helper. A helper, huh? Sure. She merely nodded after pondering for a moment. What about you? Feng Yuxiang looked at Lan Yingying. I'll stay in the Heavenly Beast Sect to study more about beast tamers, she said. Just to be safe, I'll have Yin or Yang follow you. Yuan said a moment later. Feng Yuxiang smiled and said, You don't need to worry too much, young master. We're not going out to play. Most marketplaces have strict rules and are well guarded. A few days later, once all preparations were done, Feng Yuxiang and Shi Meili set out for their business endeavor, leaving the Heavenly Beast Sect. Yin, are you here? I am here. Like a ghost, Yin responded to his call through voice transmission. Can you follow Feng Feng and Meili and watch over them? If anything happens, contact me immediately. As you command. After leaving the Heavenly Beast Sect, Feng Yuxiang and Shi Meili traveled to the nearest business city to open a store. Thanks to Feng Yuxiang's experience, the process went incredibly smoothly, and within just 3 days, they had their store up and running. How can you tell a treasure's worth? I can't tell at all. Shi Meili said as she helped Feng Yuxiang place the treasures inside their display case. Experience, experience and experience. I have been selling treasures for centuries after all. What made you choose this kind of work? Shi Meili then asked. I honestly don't know. It was the first thing that came to my mind when I thought about what I wanted to do. I didn't question it either. Sometime later, their store had its first customer. What kind of material is this? Where did you acquire it? The customer was shocked after seeing an unknown material that Yuan had acquired from the primal expanse. Feng Yuxiang calmly smiled and said, I'll tell you if you purchase a treasure. The customer swallowed nervously. Any treasure? Yes. After some contemplating, the customer purchased one of the cheaper treasures in the store, paying several hundred spirit stones just to learn more about the material. This material was acquired from a hidden domain, Feng Yuxiang said. A hidden domain. Is it still available? I'm sorry, but I cannot say more. Moreover, I am not the owner of this material, and I am merely helping the owner sell it. How much for this material? This is a one-of-kind material, so I cannot sell it immediately. However, you're more than welcome to leave an offer for the owner. In that case, I will be back later with some experts, said the customer. As you wish. Chapter 18051 of A Kind Material. Chapter 18051 of Kind Material. Once the customer left, Shi Meili asked, Should we really be selling this material when we don't know its worth? Feng Yuxiang showed a cunning smile after hearing this question before responding. Of course not. This is just there to attract customers. That said, if the offer is enticing enough, I will consider selling it for real. That's genius. Shi Meili couldn't help but look at Feng Yuxiang in a new light. A few hours later, the customer returned with several experts, most of them being blacksmiths. Heavens! What a mythical material! I have never seen anything like this before. I can sense a very chaotic but powerful energy residing within the material. This can easily become the core material of a celestial-grade treasure. Madam, may we hold the material and inspect it in more detail? One of the blacksmiths asked. Feng Yuxiang shook her head and said, I'm sorry, but by the owner's orders, I am not allowed to do so. Then, can you tell us the identity of the owner? Would like to speak with him. The owner of the material wanted me to sell it for them for a reason. They do not wish for their identity to be disclosed. The blacksmiths quickly gave up after hearing this, and they began debating about their offer for the material. As the core material for a celestial-grade treasure, this material is worth at least 1 billion spirit stones. Its rarity as a one-of-kind material increases its value. However, since its properties are unknown, it's extremely hard to put a price on it. Moreover, we cannot examine the treasure, so we won't know its true value until we get our hands on it. This is basically one huge gamble. After pondering for many minutes, the customer eventually gave Feng Yuxiang an offer. I'd like to offer 3 billion spirit stones. Feng Yuxiang nodded and proceeded to place a sign above the display case that read, Current offer, 3 billion spirit stones. If someone outbids you, I will change the price. If nobody outbids you in a month, I will contact the owner to see if he'd like to take your offer. The customer nodded. He'll come back every few days to check on the offer. The customer left shortly after, but the blacksmiths lingered in the store to examine the material a little longer. Soon, news of a one-of-kind material being sold spread throughout the city before quickly spreading to the rest of the sixth heaven. Blacksmiths and collectors swiftly gathered at Feng Yuxiang's store when they heard about it. Wow! What a beautiful and mysterious treasure! I cannot imagine what kind of environment could breed this kind of material. I really want to touch it. Dozens of people crowded around the display case, their eyes sparkling with excitement, much like kids at an amusement park. Meanwhile, the highest offer for the material had reached an eye-watering 7 billion spirit stones. Eventually, people from the upper heavens started showing up at the store. I am from the sacred furnace, and I would like to speak with the owner of this material. A middle-aged man approached Feng Yuxiang and spoke in a demanding tone. The owner does not wish to have their identity disclosed. Feng Yuxiang declined for the 10th time that day. Do you know who we, the sacred furnace, are? The middle-aged man did not give up. I don't know, nor do I care who you are. I have a reputation to uphold, and I am not going to destroy it for you. Feng Yuxiang calmly responded. I am from the upper heavens. You're just a mere store manager. Feng Yuxiang sneered in disdain. So what if you're from the upper heavens? Do you think you can get whatever you want if you come from there? I also happen to be from the upper heavens, and I demand you leave my store before I have someone escort you out. The middle-aged man trembled in anger, his face flushed with embarrassment after being called out. You think you can force me to leave? Let me see who dares to escort me out. The man released some pressure from his cultivation. However, that pressure was quickly cancelled out by someone else. I see the sacred furnace as being as unsightly as usual. Another voice resounded. Which bastard dares to mock us? The middle-aged man turned around to see an old man approaching him. Why, you're from the Steel Sovereigns. The middle-aged man's eyes widened after recognizing the old man's uniform. The Steel Sovereigns was a top faction created in the ninth heaven with many divine blacksmiths amongst their ranks. In terms of reputation and prestige, they were above the sacred furnace. How can you call yourself a blacksmith when you act so rudely before such a divine material? Get out of here before I drag you out myself. The old man continued with a cold expression. The man from Divine Furnace knew he couldn't offend the old man, so he could only swallow this humiliation and leave the store. Once peace returned to the store, the old man acted as if nothing had happened and approached the display case with the material, his eyes filled with awe and interest. Only 7 billion spirit stones? What a joke! Inexperienced brats. The old man scoffed, his voice booming with confidence. 50 billion. I will offer 50 billion for this material. Gasps rippled through the crowd, their astonishment palpable at the staggering leap in price. Yet Feng Yuxiang remained unfazed by the offer. With a serene smile, she quietly removed the old sign and replaced it with the updated offer. The old man lingered in the store for a few more minutes, his gaze fixed on the material as though memorizing its every detail before finally departing. In the days that followed, similar scenes unfolded repeatedly. One by one, the treasures Yuan had entrusted to Feng Yuxiang found eager buyers until only a handful of the priciest items and the one-of-kind material remained. Chapter 18061 of A Kind Material 2. Chapter 18061 of Kind Material 2. Nearly a month had passed since Feng Yuxiang had opened her store. During this time, tens of thousands of experts, including many from the upper heavens, had visited to marvel at the treasures on display. Yet, only a select few dared to make an offer for the one-of-kind material. The reason was simple. The price had soared to a staggering 75 billion spirit stones. This astronomical sum could easily buy an entire celestial-grade treasure, or even two, making it seem almost absurd for a single piece of material. However, its unparalleled rarity and enigmatic origins made it a prized target for collectors, who were willing to pay a premium for the chance to own it. When Yuan heard about the offers, he was elated. In his eyes, the material wasn't worth more than 10 billion spirit stones at most. Yet, to his astonishment, it had fetched over 7 times that amount. In the end, the material was sold for a staggering 81 billion spirit stones, and the one who won the bid was the old man from Steel Sovereigns. Congratulations, the owner of the material has agreed to sell it to you, Feng Yuxiang announced with a graceful smile after receiving Yuan's approval. The old man's face lit up with elation, knowing he had secured the prized material. Yet beneath his joy, a twinge of pain lingered in his heart as he handed over the spirit stones. He was fully aware that he had overpaid, but to him, the material's rarity and potential were worth the sacrifice. With a deep breath, he accepted the bittersweet victory. Feng Yuxiang handed the material to the old man after confirming the payment. Oh, finally. I've been dreaming of this moment since I first laid eyes on it, the old man muttered, his voice quivering with emotion. His hands trembled as he held the material, running his fingers over its surface, savoring the texture, as if trying to etch every sensation into memory. I'm glad to see you're pleased with your purchase, Feng Yuxiang said with a warm smile. Then her voice took on a more commanding tone as she added, "Now I have another announcement." Her words immediately captured the attention of everyone in the store. The shop was packed tighter than ever, bustling with onlookers eager to witness the winner of the auction. Many hoped for just a closer glimpse of the material, and a few even harbored dreams of touching it. The crowd fell silent, their anticipation palpable as they waited to hear what Feng Yuxiang would reveal next. Then, to the utter shock and disbelief of everyone present, Feng Yuxiang calmly reached into her spatial ring and retrieved another piece of material, its mysterious aura captivating the room instantly. The owner of the previous material, she began with a cunning smile, has decided to sell yet another one-of-kind treasure. What? There's another one. The crowd erupted into a frenzy, their astonishment visible. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the store as countless pairs of eyes locked onto the new material. The old man who had just purchased the last material stood in place with a look of bewilderment on his face. Another one, he mumbled. Feng Yuxiang nodded and said, "Yes, this material was found alongside the last one. For this material, we'll start the offer at 70 billion spirit stones." After putting the material into the display case, Feng Yuxiang stepped back to allow the crowd to examine it more closely. Although the material is entirely different, it has the same chaotic energy, so it was definitely found within the same place. The energy it's emitting is even stronger than the last one. After closely examining the new material, the old man from Steel Sovereign clenched his jaw, his expression a mixture of frustration and resolve. Without a word, he turned and walked out of the store, his steps heavy yet purposeful. It was clear to everyone watching that this wasn't the last they'd see of him. With an entire month before the material was set to be sold, it was only a matter of time before he returned. Over the next 2 weeks, the bidding war for the second material intensified, with offers steadily climbing. By the end of the 3rd week, the price had reached an astonishing 80 billion spirit stones, nearly matching the record-breaking sum fetched by the previous material. At the start of the final week, the old man from the Steel Sovereigns returned, this time accompanied by a strikingly handsome young man whose presence commanded attention. The young man approached the material with a calm yet intense demeanor, his sharp eyes scrutinizing every inch of its mysterious surface. For 3 days, he examined it without pause, unmoving as if in a trance. Finally, on the 4th day, he broke his silence. "I'll offer 95 billion spirit stones for this material," he declared, his voice steady and filled with conviction. The moment those words left his lips, a wave of astonished gasps swept through the store. Heavens! Nearly 100 billion spirit stones for a single material. If this material were sold in the 9th heaven, it'd probably fetch for far more. Most of the astonished reactions came from individuals of the 6th heaven, for whom such an astronomical price was nearly unfathomable. On the other hand, those from the upper heavens remained relatively composed. They had witnessed treasures sold for even greater sums in their realms, and regarded the 95 billion spirit stone offer as impressive, but not unprecedented. Who is that young man anyway? He's the Steel Sovereign's leader's son. He's probably buying that material for his father, who is currently collecting rare treasures for his lifelong masterpiece. In the end, the young man won the material for 95 billion spirit stones. After selling the material, Feng Yuxiang closed the shop and returned to the Heavenly Beast Sect with Shimei. Young master, guess how much money we've earned? Feng Yuxiang approached him with a prideful smile. 200 billion spirit stones, he guessed. Close. We earned a grand total of 207 billion spirit stones, she declared. Chapter 1807 Spirit Jade. Chapter 1807 Spirit Jade. 207 billion spirit stones, huh? And to think I was sweating over a few thousand gold coins just a few years ago. Yuan chuckled after hearing the full amount of their sales. Most of the earnings came from the material you acquired from the Primal Expanse. Do you intend on selling more of them? Feng Yuxiang asked. No, at least not at this moment. I'll think about it once we need money again. Any news on the hidden domain's opening? Shimei asked a moment later. The sect leader said that he'd be making an announcement about it soon, probably within this week. Finally, I cannot wait to experience a hidden domain for the first time, Shimei said with an eager smile. Feng Yuxiang looked at her and said, you know, the ancient dragon city is also considered a hidden domain. What? Really? Shimei's eyes widened at this information. This was her first time hearing about it. Probably. While it might not be the exact same, it's similar. After all, it's not a place meant to be discovered, and it was hidden for a reason. Otherwise, you'd be receiving new visitors every day. That makes sense. Shimei muttered. By the way, where's Yingying? She's at the usual place taking lectures from the Heavenly Beast Sect, Yuan said. The desire to understand the bond between humans and contracted beasts had driven Lan Yingying to spend the past 2 months at the Heavenly Beast Sect as a guest disciple. Just like an ordinary disciple, she attended lectures by the sect elders, joined training exercises, and even sparred with the disciples. Is she doing this alone? Shimei asked. At first, yes, Yuan replied. But for the past month, I've been accompanying her. She is my contracted beast, after all. And it's only natural for me to stand by her side and support her. As a matter of fact, we have a sparring match with one of the sect elders scheduled in a few hours. Oh, you're going to spar alongside Yingying? Now this is something I must watch, Feng Yuxiang commented. A few hours later, Lan Yingying returned and said, Yuan, are you ready for the match? It begins in 2 hours. Yes, I am ready whenever you are. Okay, Lan Yingying noticed Feng Yuxiang and Shimei had returned and asked them a moment later. Welcome back, you two. How is the store? We sold pretty much everything and already closed the store down. The hidden domain will be opening soon anyway, said Feng Yuxiang. We earned 207 billion spirit stones. Shimei proudly declared. 207 billion? Lan Yingying's eyes widened at this astronomical number. It may sound like a lot, but it's not much, at least compared to Spirit Jade, which is considered true cultivator currency in the upper heavens, Feng Yuxiang said. Speaking of Spirit Jade, how much do you think this is worth? Yuan retrieved the Spirit Jade given to him by Su Jieqi when he first started. Feng Yuxiang's eyes widened with shock after seeing it, and her heart almost jumped out of her chest. Where in heaven's name did you acquire such a Spirit Jade? It was given to me by Su Jieqi, that celestial overlord. Why would she give you such a treasure? This was Feng Yuxiang's first glimpse of the Spirit Jade. As Xiaohua had been carefully safeguarding it, knowing it was not something to be revealed lightly. She wanted me to join the celestial overlords, and she gave me this in exchange. So she basically purchased you. Feng Yuxiang showed a slight smile. Still, I cannot believe she'd be so generous. This Spirit Jade is ancient grade, and contains enough spiritual energy to instantly turn a mortal into an immortal. As for its value, honestly, even I don't know. I have dealt with Spirit Jades before, but nothing of this quality and quantity. You can probably purchase the entire lower heavens with a third of this Spirit Jade. Purchasing the lower heavens? Is that even possible? Yuan asked with intrigue. Probably, but you'd have to speak with the Celestial Emperor, who technically owns the 9 heavens. Yuan looked at the spirit jade in silence for a moment before speaking. Honestly, it'd be a waste to use this as a currency. According to Xiaohua, it can also be used to awaken or evolve bloodlines. Maybe I can use it for a similar purpose. Feng Yuxiang nodded in agreement. Aside from being a form of currency, most immortal cultivators use spirit jade to enhance their immortal qi and celestial qi, much like how mortal cultivators rely on spirit stones to advance their cultivation. However, spirit jade is far more potent. Its unparalleled purity also makes it significantly easier to absorb, like swimming in clear water compared to wading through mud. Sometime later, Yuan and Lan Yingying departed to engage in their scheduled sparring match, with Feng Yuxiang and Shi Meili naturally accompanying them. When they arrived at the arena, they were met by Hong Ling, who had been assigned as the referee for their match. "It's been a while, Senior Feng, Senior Shi." Hong Ling greeted them with a respectful bow. "Looks like we'll be bothering you again," Shi Meili smiled. "It's no bother at all. In fact, I was the one who requested to be here. I have always wondered what kind of master you contracted with. There's no way I'm missing this chance." Although Yuan had previously accompanied Lan Yingying to sparring sessions, this was the first time they would be fighting together in an actual match. "Hello, I am Elder Tian, and I will be your sparring partner today," a middle-aged woman introduced herself moments later, her contracted beast standing calmly behind her. After returning her greeting, Yuan turned his attention to the beast behind Elder Tian. It was an enormous bird with sleek, metallic black feathers that shimmered like armor, and its wings glinted with a razor-sharp edge, resembling finely honed swords. "This is my beast, a midnight armored Talon," Elder Tian introduced her beast. Chapter 1808 Fighting Like a Beast Tamer. Chapter 1808 Fighting Like a Beast Tamer. "This is my partner, Yingying." Yuan introduced Lan Yingying not as his beast but as his partner. This little detail made Hong Ling smile. Lan Yingying continued, "I am a divine beast, a divine serpent. Thank you for giving us this opportunity." Elder Tian shook her head and said, "No, I should be thanking you for this opportunity. We have never fought a divine beast before. However, I am a little worried about your cultivation." Yuan was only at the first level of spirit enlightenment, and Lan Yingying's cultivation wasn't much better, being only at the 9th level of spirit enlightenment. Meanwhile, Elder Tian's cultivation was at the peak of Divine Emperor, and her beast was at the 3rd level of Divine Sovereign. "Don't worry, we're stronger than we appear," Yuan said reassuringly, but it didn't clear any doubt at all. No matter how talented you are, there's no way you can overcome the difference of 7 entire realms. Not wanting to appear rude, Elder Tian shook her head inwardly. Sometime later, Yuan and Elder Tian distanced themselves from the arena. "Are you going to fight in your human form?" Yuan asked Lan Yingying. She nodded and said, "For now at least. I want to see my limit in my human form. Also, can you allow me to fight alone for a bit?" "Of course. Just let me know when you need assistance." The match began shortly after, and Elder Tian allowed Lan Yingying to have the first move. "You can go first," Elder Tian declared. "Then I won't be humble." Lan Yingying responded swiftly, preparing her first attack. As she gathered her spiritual energy, a striking transformation began. Her flowing black hair shifted to a radiant white, and her azure eyes shimmered as they turned a vivid pink. Fiery Lotus. With a graceful motion, she unleashed one of the first martial techniques she had ever mastered. A dozen brilliant flaming lotuses bloomed into existence, their fiery petals swirling elegantly in the sky, radiating both beauty and destruction. When Lan Yingying first learned this technique, she could barely summon 2 lotuses before exhausting her spiritual energy. Now, she could manage a dozen without breaking a sweat. The flaming lotuses erupted a moment later, exploding like a cascade of fireworks and engulfing the entire arena in mesmerizing white flames. Despite the gap in their cultivation levels, the midnight armored Talon could feel the intense heat emanating from the white flames. The searing energy pierced through its metallic armor, leaving it visibly unsettled. However, that was the extent of the damage. Apart from a slight discomfort from the heat, the midnight armored Talon remained unharmed. Once Lan Yingying used her free attack, Elder Tian wasted no time commanding her beast. The midnight armored talon soared into the air. Once airborne, it began fanning its massive wings, sending razor-sharp wind blades hurtling toward Lan Yingying with incredible force. Fearing the possibility of accidentally harming Lan Yingying, Elder Tian instructed the midnight armored talon to hold back its full strength. However, when the dust settled and Lan Yingying's figure emerged, Elder Tian was taken aback. Lan Yingying stood there nearly unscathed, with only a few scratches on her arms. However, even those minor wounds vanished in the blink of an eye. I appreciate you holding back for me, but you really don't need to, Lan Yingying said as she made her next move. Sacred Fire. Lan Yingying manifested a massive ball of sacred fire, its intense heat distorting the air around it. With a swift motion, she molded it into the shape of a spear and hurled it toward the flying beast. The flaming spear tore through the sky like a blazing comet, leaving a trail of scorching heat in its wake as it surged toward its target. The midnight armored talon instinctively tried to evade the incoming spear. However, it quickly realized that the spear was no ordinary attack. It adjusted its trajectory mid-flight, seemingly locked onto the beast with an uncanny homing capability. Realizing it could not evade the attack, the midnight armored talon resolved to confront it head-on. Channeling its full cultivation, the beast unleashed a thunderous cry, its power so immense that it created visible ripples in the air. When the flaming spear met the force of the ripple, the two clashed violently for a split second before the flaming spear was extinguished. So this is my limit in my human form, huh? Lan Yingying sighed inwardly. In the very next moment, Lan Yingying decided to reveal her true form. With a surge of energy, she transformed into a stunning white snake, her scales gleaming with a radiant purity that captivated all who watched. So this is a divine serpent, Elder Tian exclaimed, her voice trembling with a mix of excitement and awe as she took in the majesty of Lan Yingying's true form. Her eyes sparkled with reverence, unable to look away from the radiant white serpent before her. After transforming, Lan Yingying's aura surged dramatically, radiating an overwhelming pressure. Upon closer inspection, her white scales shimmered faintly with sacred fire, adding a divine and imposing brilliance to her presence. In the next moment, Lan Yingying leaped into the air, soaring toward the midnight armored talon with newfound ferocity. Her sacred flames, now amplified several times by her transformation, burned brighter and hotter than ever. However, despite the increase in power, the gap in their cultivation levels remained insurmountable, leaving her attacks unable to fully penetrate the beast's defenses. Before long, Lan Yingying's pristine white body was marred by streaks of her own blood, her scales torn and glistening with large sword-like wounds. Yuan watched the entire fight with a calm expression on his face, seemingly unaffected by how badly Lan Yingying was losing. "Are you ready for my assistance?" Yuan asked her through voice transmission. After a brief pause, Lan Yingying nodded silently. Yuan smiled in acknowledgement, and without hesitation he began channeling his spiritual energy into her body. Her wounds closed almost instantly, and her aura intensified even more. Chapter 1809 Immortal Monarch's True Prowess. Chapter 1809 Immortal Monarch's True Prowess. So you're finally relying on your master. Elder Tian smiled after seeing Yuan share his spiritual energy with Lan Yingying. Unfortunately, it won't help you defeat my nightmare armored talon. At the end of the day, Yuan's cultivation remained weaker than Lan Yingying's, and even with his support, Lan Yingying lacked the extraordinary talent required to bridge the gap of 7 major cultivation realms. After all, Yuan's assistance was limited to sharing his spiritual energy, replenishing her depleted reserves, and healing her injuries. It provided much-needed sustenance, but it wasn't enough to significantly enhance her overall strength or tip the scales in her favor. Yuan agreed with Elder Tian, but he remained silent, allowing Lan Yingying to fight as she pleased. With Yuan's near-limitless spiritual energy sustaining her, Lan Yingying wielded her martial techniques without worrying about exhaustion, pushing them to their full potential and relentlessly unleashing them in rapid succession. essentially spamming her attacks. Though her individual strikes lacked the power to inflict significant damage on their own, the overwhelming volume and ceaseless barrage left the Midnight Armored Talon visibly dumbfounded. Heavens! Just where is she getting this much spiritual energy? There's no way her master has this much spiritual energy at the first level of spirit enlightenment. Elder Tian was shocked when she realized Lan Yingying was not exhausting her spiritual energy despite the spam. She looked at Yuan, who was confidently and calmly sharing his spiritual energy with Lan Yingying, looking like he was just a spectator. Let's see how long you'll be able to keep this up. Elder Tian commanded her beast to focus entirely on defense. With the vast disparity in their cultivation levels, the Midnight Armored Talon could afford to endure Lan Yingying's relentless attacks for hours, sustaining only minimal damage at most. For the next hour, Lan Yingying unleashed an endless barrage of attacks trying to break the Nightmare Armored Talon's defenses, her sacred fire consuming the entire arena. The once orderly battleground was transformed into an infernal landscape, resembling the 9 levels of hell in the Eternal Phoenix domain. However, despite her endless assault, the Midnight Armored Talon's defenses remained steadfast, showing no signs of yielding. Eventually, Lan Yingying recognized the futility of her efforts and ceased her attacks. Looks like she's finally out of spiritual energy. But heavens, what a monstrous amount of spiritual energy her master has. Elder Tian thought to herself, her back soaked in cold sweat as she marveled at the Yuan's frightening amount of spiritual energy. I guess this is it, Elder Tian said, a hint of admiration in her tone. Although you weren't able to defeat my Midnight Armored Talon, your potential is undeniable. I can't begin to imagine how terrifyingly powerful you'll be once your cultivation improves further. She spoke with confidence, already declaring her victory. However, Yuan responded in a slow but confident tone. This is far from over, Elder Tian. Elder Tian frowned and said, you should know when to give up. Even if you have unlimited spiritual energy, your beast lacks the prowess to break through my beast's defenses. Also, we've only used half of our strength. Yuan did not respond to Elder Tian. Instead, he asked Lan Yingying, what do you think? Lan Yingying lowered her head and sighed in a defeated tone. Elder Tian is correct. No matter how much spiritual energy you share with me, I do not possess the same talent as you. I don't have what it takes to defeat them in my current state. Yuan nodded and responded, under normal circumstances, you are correct. No matter how much spiritual energy I share with you, it won't increase your talents or give you supernatural strength. However, have you forgotten who your master I am? Lan Yingying raised an eyebrow at Yuan's words, her expression reflecting a mix of confusion and curiosity, as though she struggled to fully grasp the meaning behind the statement. Yuan chuckled and continued speaking to her through voice transmission. I am not your ordinary beast tamer. I am the Immortal Monarch. Let me show you what it means to be the Immortal Monarch's contracted beast, the Immortal Monarch's true prowess. After recovering the majority of the Immortal Monarch's memories, Yuan also inherited the entirety of his beast-taming techniques. However, Yuan continued, his tone calm but firm, before I can use the Immortal Monarch's powers on you, you must first accept the Immortal Monarch's seal. It's a unique bond, distinct from our existing contract, and it allows me to have complete control over your life. If I want you to die, I can do so with a thought. Also, the seal can only be removed with my death. Even knowing that, are you willing to accept my seal, Yingying? Without hesitation, Lan Yingying nodded. I accept. After receiving Lan Yingying's approval, Yuan began to draw a complex symbol in the air with precise, fluid motions. Though it bore a superficial resemblance to array symbols, its essence was entirely different. This symbol radiated an otherworldly energy, its power stemming directly from Yuan's soul, pulsating with a profound and ancient aura. What are you doing? Elder Tian muttered in a daze. Meanwhile, Hongling Feng Yuxiang, Shi Meili, and every beast in the Heavenly Beast Sect could sense the profound aura emanating from the symbol. The energy it radiated was so overwhelming and majestic that it stirred something primal within them, compelling a powerful and natural urge to bow in reverence, as if they were standing in the presence of a divine force. Once Yuan completed the seal, he made a graceful gesture, sending it soaring toward Lan Yingying. The seal entered her body effortlessly, merging with her very being. Moments later, the words Immortal Monarch manifested on her skin, forming an elegant symbol that radiated a subtle yet profound aura. After accepting the supreme seal, Lan Yingying felt an unfamiliar sensation coursing through her body, as though something profound had awakened within her. However, the nature of this change eluded her for now. Chapter 1810 Immortal Monarch's Supreme Seal. Chapter 1810 Immortal Monarch's Supreme Seal. Immortal Monarch's Supreme Seal. Rank: Celestial. Mastery level: Max. Description: bestow a supreme seal onto a beast. When a beast accepts your seal, you will have complete control over their life, and in exchange, they will acquire a portion of your overall stats and talents. You can only have 9 supreme seals active. Name: Lan Yingying. Servant grade: Ancient - Servant grade, Mythic, Master. Yuan Cultivation: 9th level Spirit Enlightenment. Legacy: Nun Bloodline, Sacred Serpent Bloodline. Physique: World Eater Physique. Title: Divine Supreme. Rank: Celestial. Description: the bearer of this title will automatically gain a portion of all spiritual energy absorbed by their master. The bearer of this title will acquire 25% of their master's overall talents and stats. Effect increases as the servant's bond with the master deepens. The Supreme Seal bestowed a unique blessing upon the Divine Supremes, enabling them to grow alongside Yuan. This bond ensured that, despite Yuan's monstrous talents and rapid advancement, they would not lag too far behind, maintaining their relevance and strength as his companions. However, this came at a cost. Yuan's cultivation progress would be slowed down even further. Yet he was fully aware of this drawback and willingly accepted it, prioritizing Lan Yingying's growth. Fortunately, the Supreme Seal had no negative impact on Yuan's overall prowess. While the Divine Supremes inherited 25% of his strength and talents through the seal, this did not mean Yuan himself became 25% weaker. Instead, the seal functioned as a conduit, allowing them to draw upon his power directly. Yingying, go ahead and try fighting again, Yuan said to her. She nodded and turned to look at Elder Tian. Let's continue the fight, she said. Elder Tian showed a stiff smile and responded, I don't know what just happened, but if you think it will help you defeat. In the midst of Elder Tian's speech, the Supreme Seal on Lan Yingying suddenly activated without warning. Her aura surged dramatically, radiating an overwhelming presence that filled the arena. The intensity of her presence was so imposing that even the Midnight Armored Talon, previously unfazed, instinctively recoiled, feeling a genuine sense of threat for the first time. Fine, Elder Tian said a moment later. If you wish to continue, we can do that. However, this time, we won't hold back anymore. The Midnight Armored Talon let out an eager, piercing cry, as if shaking off its earlier fear. Its aura erupted like a storm, surging to its peak as it fully unleashed its cultivation base, preparing to confront Lan Yingying with all its might. Lan Yingying leaped gracefully into the air, her movements swift and fluid, before soaring toward the Midnight Armored Talon. The two clashed mid-sky, their battle unleashing shockwaves of energy as they exchanged ferocious blows at each other. Impossible. She's actually fighting on par with my beast? Elder Tian exclaimed, her eyes wide with disbelief. Despite the surge in her aura and presence, Lan Yingying's cultivation level hadn't changed. It remained at the peak of spirit enlightenment. Yet, she was somehow able to hold her ground against the Midnight Armored Talon, a beast operating at the full power of the 7th level of Divine Sovereign. Moreover, Lan Yingying's prowess seemed to intensify with each passing moment, her attacks becoming more powerful and deadly. The sight defied logic, leaving Elder Tian struggling to comprehend the reality unfolding before her. What is this overwhelming power? Lan Yingying thought, feeling just as astonished as Elder Tian, if not even more so. I see. This is Yuan's power, Lan Yingying quickly realized. And I can feel it growing stronger as my body adapts to it. As Yuan's energy coursed through her entire being, it felt warm and reassuring, almost like she was being embraced by him, and she couldn't help but feel a profound sense of unity with him. The moment the Supreme Seal strengthened, Lan Yingying's aura surged to an even greater height, and to everyone's astonishment, a pair of magnificent wings composed entirely of white flames emerged from her back, their ethereal glow illuminating the battlefield and exuding a divine presence that left onlookers breathless. Amazing! She merely muttered unconsciously, her eyes wide with wonder as she felt her breath stolen by the sheer beauty and power of Lan Yingying's transformation. After her transformation, Lan Yingying's attacks grew exponentially more powerful. The midnight armored Talon, once an impenetrable fortress, began to falter under the relentless onslaught. Its formidable defenses, which had previously withstood everything she threw at it, could no longer hold against the might of her sacred fire. Eventually, Lan Yingying started to push the beast back. Seeing her beast being overwhelmed, Elder Tian quickly began transferring her spiritual energy to the midnight armored Talon. While this replenished some of its depleted reserves, it was only a temporary measure. Against Yuan's seemingly endless well of spiritual energy, Elder Tian's efforts were no match. Her spiritual energy could only sustain the midnight armored Talon for an additional 20 minutes before she, too, began to run dry, leaving her beast vulnerable once more. Once her spiritual energy had been exhausted, the midnight armored Talon could no longer defend against Lan Yingying's sacred fire, and became engulfed in it. Seeing this, Elder Tian clenched her fists and shouted, "Enough! I admit defeat." Hearing her opponent surrender, Lan Yingying promptly extinguished her sacred fire, and reverted to her human form. With graceful steps, she approached the midnight armored Talon, now resting by Elder Tian's side, its aura dim but steady. Bowing deeply to both Elder Tian and her beast, Lan Yingying spoke with sincerity. "Thank you very much for the match. I will never forget this experience." Elder Tian showed a bittersweet smile. "I will also never forget this experience." Lan Yingying returned to Yuan's side a moment later, her face glowing with a bright, triumphant smile. Without hesitation, she dropped to one knee and bowed deeply before him. "Thank you for bestowing this power upon me," she said through voice transmission, her voice filled with unwavering gratitude and devotion. "Allow me to swear my loyalty to you once again, my lord." Yuan smiled and said, "You haven't called me lord in a while. It feels weird, so just keep calling me Yuan." Chapter 1811 Immortal Monarch's Supreme Seal, 2. Chapter 1811 Immortal Monarch's Supreme Seal, 2. Shortly after the match ended, Hong Ling entered the arena and said to Lan Yingying, "Honestly, I didn't expect you to win this match." "I wouldn't have won without my young master's assistance," she said. Hong Ling's eyes shifted to Yuan, her gaze filled with interest, even showing a hint of envy and longing. "I'm afraid to ask, but I won't be able to sleep if I don't. What kind of technique did you use at the end?" "Of course, you can refuse to answer." Yuan smiled faintly behind his mask and replied, "It's a secret technique that has been passed down through generations in my family." "A family technique, huh? In that case, I won't inquire further," Hong Ling said with a faint hint of disappointment in her voice. Though curious, she knew her boundaries. "Anyway, before you leave, the sect leader said that he will be announcing the hidden domain's opening in 3 days," she continued a moment later. "Okay." Sometime later, Yuan and the others returned to their living quarters. "Young master, what happened during the match? What did you do to Yingying?" Feng Yuxiang questioned the moment they returned. "I have never seen or heard of anything like that before. That was just some of the Immortal Monarch's techniques. I gave Yingying the Immortal Monarch's Supreme Seal, making her one of the Divine Supremes. In exchange for her loyalty, she will be able to use some of my strength as if it were her own." "What? One of the Divine Supremes? What about me? I was your first servant, excluding Xiaohua since she is human." Feng Yuxiang was on the verge of tears after realizing Lan Yingying had become his first Divine Supreme despite appearing after her. "I've only remembered this technique recently, so there's no way I could have given it to you. Moreover, to accept the Supreme Seal is to offer your life to me. If I wish for your life, I could take it with a single thought. It's not something I can casually hand out. I accept. Even if I have to offer my soul to you, please grant me your supreme seal, and make me one of your divine supremes, young master. Feng Yuxiang exclaimed passionately, her voice trembling with desperation. Her tone was so fervent that it resembled that of a beggar pleading. No, perhaps even a beggar wouldn't sound as utterly desperate as she did at that moment. Her pride cast aside entirely. Seeing how desperate Feng Yuxiang was, Yuan had no choice but to agree. Of course, he would have still given Feng Yuxiang the supreme seal even if she didn't beg him to do so. Here. Yuan created another supreme seal and offered it to Feng Yuxiang, who accepted it with open arms. Ah. So this is the young master's power. It's flowing throughout my body. Feng Yuxiang exclaimed, her voice quivering with delight. With this seal, I will always feel connected to you. As if you are with me even when we are apart. She trembled with joy, savoring the profound sensation coursing through her. She merely swallowed nervously after seeing Feng Yuxiang's reaction. She shifted her gaze to Yuan, seemingly contemplating whether she should also ask for one. However, after some pondering, she decided to wait a little longer. Name, Feng Yuxiang. Servant grade, Divine-Servant grade, Mythic. Master, Yuan Cultivation, 9th level Divine Warrior. Legacy 9th Bloodline, Ancient Phoenix Bloodline, Primordial Phoenix Bloodline, Physique, Inextinguishable Immortal Fire. In the last 2 months, Feng Yuxiang's cultivation increased even further, reaching the peak of Divine Warrior. After accepting Yuan's supreme seal, the words Immortal Monarch manifested near Feng Yuxiang's chest in the form of a symbol directly over her heart. For Lan Yingying, once she reverted to her human form, the symbol appeared on her stomach, slightly below her belly button. The markings were subtle, barely visible under normal circumstances. However, they'd quickly become prominent when they channeled the powers bestowed by the seal. What was that energy just now? Shortly after Feng Yuxiang accepted the supreme seal, Yingzi appeared out of thin air and asked. Yuan explained the supreme seal to her. I see. How interesting. Yuan smiled and said, I also see that you've successfully cultivated the cultivation technique. In 2 short months, Yingzi successfully cultivated shadow extraction and created a Dantian, which allowed her to cultivate spiritual energy. Yes, I managed to create my Dantian yesterday, she nodded. What? Yesterday? But you're already at the peak of Spirit Lord. She merely exclaimed in a shocked tone. Such ridiculous progress is even faster than the young master. Of course, she has an advantage since she started cultivating in the 6th heaven, where the spiritual energy is much more powerful. Feng Yuxiang muttered with a dumbfounded look on her face. Cultivating spiritual energy is much easier than cultivating chaotic essence, Yingzi said calmly. It's so much purer, which makes it significantly easier to absorb and refine. If cultivating was this easy in the primal expanse, I would have long reached chaotic immortal. To reach chaotic immortal was akin to achieving at least golden immortal in the 9 heavens. As for Yingzi, she was currently around immortal ascension with her chaotic heart. I guess we won't have to worry about your sustainability in the 9 heavens anymore. Yuan chuckled. By the way, young master, does the supreme seals negatively affect you in any way? Feng Yuxiang asked a moment later. You're asking that after you accepted it? Yuan joked. Yes, it does. Since I automatically share some of the spiritual energy I absorb with the Divine Supremes, I will naturally cultivate slower. How much slower? She swallowed nervously. I don't know, but we can test it out. Yuan retrieved a divine sovereign-level monster core head acquired from the Vanishing Valley, and casually tossed it into his mouth. After consuming the monster core, Yuan could feel his cultivation increase slightly. Feng Yuxiang felt a refreshing sensation, but her cultivation did not change in the slightest. As for Lan Yingying, her cultivation soared all the way to the 4th level of Divine Warrior in the blink of an eye. Chapter 1812 Heading to the Hidden Domain. Chapter 1812 Heading to the Hidden Domain. Huh? My cultivation. Lan Yingying looked at her palms with a bewildered expression on her face. Yuan raised an eyebrow at the puzzling results. If Lan Yingying only received a portion of the spiritual energy he absorbed, there was no way her cultivation would have increased so much. If your cultivation increased while mine barely moved, there's only one explanation. The Supreme Seal completely ignored the Celestial Emperor's curse. Yuan exclaimed after coming to this realization. The Celestial Emperor's curse on Yuan directly reduced the effectiveness of all spiritual energy he absorbed by a staggering 99%. If the curse had worked properly, Lan Yingying would have only absorbed a portion of that 1%. Yet, she had a breakthrough while already having a higher cultivation than Yuan, multiple breakthroughs at that. Wanting to confirm this theory, Yuan consumed another monster core. This time, the monster core belonged to a magical beast at the level of divine ancestor. After consuming the monster core, Yuan's cultivation made a breakthrough, entering the second level of spirit enlightenment. Meanwhile, Lan Yingying's cultivation soared all the way to the first level of divine master, surpassing Feng Yuxiang and Shi Meili, who were still divine warriors. Heavens! This speed of cultivation is outrageous. It's heaven-defying. It's unfair, Shi Meili exclaimed, her voice trembling with a mix of awe and terror. Compared to what Lan Yingying had just experienced, the thousands of years that she had painstakingly spent cultivating now felt utterly insignificant, pointless even. I guess that confirms my suspicions. The Supreme Seal somehow bypasses the Celestial Emperor's curse, Yuan muttered in a daze. Well, aren't you lucky, Yingying? Feng Yuxiang began, turning toward her with a playful tone, but her words caught in her throat mid-sentence. Yingying, are you okay? Feng Yuxiang asked, her expression shifting to one of concern as she noticed Yingying's pale complexion and unsteady stance. Lan Yingying nodded slightly, her movements slow and unsteady. I suddenly feel a little nauseous, she admitted, her voice soft. I think it's because my cultivation increased so much so quickly. My boat is struggling to adjust. Oh yeah, that's actually quite normal, Feng Yuxiang said. Really? I've never experienced anything like that, Yuan casually remarked. Feng Yuxiang shook her head with a slight smile. How can you compare yourself to us, young master? There's a reason most people take the time to adapt to their new cultivation after a breakthrough. If we rush cultivation like a madman, it would actually harm us instead. What about Yingzi? Shi Meili asked. Her body is already adapted since this isn't her first time reaching that level. That makes sense. Sorry, Yingying. This is my fault. Yuan apologized to her. No, it's fine. I just need some time to adapt. After saying that, Lan Yingying sat on the ground and began to circulate her dantian to speed up the process. Even though I can increase their cultivation rapidly through the Supreme Seal, I shouldn't be too extreme or hasty, Yuan muttered softly, almost as if he were reminding himself. Over the next 3 days, Lan Yingying spent all of her time adjusting to her new cultivation. Meanwhile, Yingzi continued to increase her cultivation, reaching the peak of Spirit King. After 3 days had passed, Sect leader Bao made his long-awaited announcement through the communication Jade slip he gave to everyone with a slot. The time has come, he declared in a clear voice. In precisely 14 days from now, the hidden domain to the Immortal Monastery will be open. If you have a slot, please gather at the hidden domain with your entry token before then. I will send the location of the hidden domain to everyone through the communication Jade slip shortly after this announcement. The announcement was short but straight to the point. 14 days, huh? Yuan mumbled. Shortly after the announcement ended, Yuan received the location of the hidden domain. It's quite far from here, so we should start making our way there as soon as possible, Yuan said after memorizing the location. Okay. Feng Yuxiang and Lan Yingying entered his dantian while Yingzi returned to his shadow. When Tan Songyan emerged from her room a few hours later, Yuan asked, Do you know where to go? She nodded. Are we leaving now? We can. Before we leave, I should warn you to be careful, Tan Songyan suddenly said. Careful? Of what? Yuan asked. There are only 20,000 slots, nowhere near enough to satisfy everyone. There's a good chance some people will attempt to steal our slots while we make our way to the hidden domain, she explained. Oh, I can see that happening. Don't worry. Nobody will be able to steal from us. Humph, she coldly snorted. You say that now, but no matter how talented you are, you'll be helpless once you encounter someone who can use immortal qi. Yuan didn't comment on that remark and merely smiled in silence. Sometime later, Yuan, Tan Songyun, and Shi Meili departed from the Heavenly Beast Sect, setting off on their journey to the hidden domain. As they made their way, they noticed a steady stream of others also leaving the sect and heading in the same direction. To minimize the risk of encountering thieves, Yuan's group decided to travel with the larger crowd until they reached the nearest city equipped with a teleportation device. Yuan hoped to remain with the group until they reached the hidden domain, but after using the teleportation device to reach the city closest to the hidden domain, the group began to disperse. It became clear that the cultivators were purposefully going their separate ways, likely to avoid competition or unnecessary trouble as they approached the hidden domain. Everyone must be wary of each other since we don't know who has a slot, Tan Songyun said after seeing the group scatter. What should we do now? Shi Meili asked. There's nothing we can do except head to the hidden domain ourselves. Yuan shrugged. That said, we shouldn't head there immediately. Let's wait a few more days before we do so. Chapter 1813 The Hidden Domain's Opening. Chapter 1813 The Hidden Domain's Opening. A few days? What are you going to do in the meantime? Tan Songyun asked. Yuan smiled and said, Look around you at this city. There are plenty of things to do. I haven't had a good meal in a while, so I'll be spending my time in restaurants. Tan Songyun raised an eyebrow and remarked, Food? Cultivators don't need to eat, and that stuff will only dirty your body with impurities. Most cultivators avoided eating food, or even drinking water for precisely this reason. The impurities in ordinary meals, even spiritual food, were considered detrimental to their refined bodies and cultivation progress. Instead, they sustained themselves by absorbing spiritual energy, whether through diligent cultivation or by utilizing spirit stones, which provided a pure and efficient source of nourishment. Can you even call yourself human if you stop eating food entirely? So what if it contains a little impurity? You can easily cleanse it. Yuan shook his head. Tan Songyun fell silent after hearing his response. Sometime later, they went to a nearby restaurant and filled their table with food, with Yingzi joining them at their feast. As for Tan Songyun, she merely cultivated in silence, not touching any of the food before her. After finishing their meal at one restaurant, they moved on to another, indulging in a variety of dishes. This pattern continued over the next few days, turning their journey into an impromptu food tour, much to the bewilderment of Tan Songyun. How can they eat this much? Tan Songyun wondered inwardly, her body trembling slightly at the mere thought of the sheer amount of impurities they must have consumed over the past few days. Unbeknownst to Tan Songyun, Yuan possessed an untainted body, a physique that automatically cleansed any impurities he consumed, rendering them completely harmless. Shi Meili, being a divine beast, also had a body that naturally purified impurities, though not as efficiently or rapidly as Yuan's untainted body. As for Yingzi, who has a chaotic heart, the situation was entirely different. Impurities, rather than being harmful, actually benefited her cultivation. With just 10 days remaining before the hidden domain's opening, Yuan and his group decided to conclude their leisurely detour and resume their journey. If nothing happens, we should arrive at the hidden domain in 6 days, Tan Songyun said as she rode her flying treasure with Shi Meili. By the way, what are you doing? Tan Songyun continued as she shifted her gaze to Yuan, who was using an ordinary sword as a flying sword. Are you talking about my flying sword? I prefer traveling like this, he said. I don't get it. It's too inefficient, she said. It may be, but it feels good. There's just something about soaring through the sky while standing on a sword. Tan Songyun merely shook her head inwardly at his weird preferences. After traveling for a day straight without encountering anyone, Tan Songyun suddenly warned Yuan through voice transmission. In case you didn't notice, we're being followed. I am aware, he calmly responded. Yuan had sensed their presence the moment they appeared, roughly 10 minutes ago. The individuals trailing them were skilled, maintaining a distance just far enough to avoid detection by most cultivators at the Divine Master level. However, they had severely underestimated Yuan's abilities, and Tan Songyun had deliberately concealed her true cultivation, suppressing it to appear as though she was only at the Divine Warrior realm, making their group seem like an easy target. They're probably trying to feel us out, to see whether we have a slot or not. What do you want to do? Kill them? Tan Songyun asked. Why bother? As long as they don't act, we can ignore them. Are you afraid of them? Judging by their presence, they probably come from the upper heavens. Yuan chuckled openly, his voice carrying a hint of amusement. Afraid? Why would I be afraid of them? I just find it a hassle, that's all. You. Tan Songyun's eyes widened in surprise as she realized what Yuan had done. He had deliberately made their pursuers aware that he knew of their presence, a move so bold it left her momentarily speechless. Sure enough, a few moments later, the people trailing them abandoned all attempts of stealth. Their presence became overbearing as they swiftly closed the distance and positioned themselves to block Yuan and his group's path. The group consisted of two individuals, a middle-aged woman and a young man, both radiating the aura of immortals. Their cultivation levels were at the peak of Divine Ancestor. How can we help you? Yuan asked, his tone calm and nonchalant, accompanied by a serene smile that showed no hint of concern despite the overwhelming pressure exuded by the duo. Well, get straight to the point. Give us your slots to the hidden domain, and we'll spare your lives, said the woman. Yuan raised an eyebrow and responded with a puzzled face. Slots to the hidden domain? What are you talking about? Do you think we are stupid? We know you're heading to the hidden domain. This is your last chance. The woman suddenly exuded some of her immortal qi. She merely clenched her jaw after sensing the immortal qi, something she was not able to withstand in her current state. Seeing this, Tan Songyun used some of her own immortal qi to protect her. Oh, you're also an immortal? The middle-aged woman was somewhat surprised by Tan Songyun's ability to use immortal qi. It's no wonder why you're so calm. Did you descend to a lower heaven just to rob the people here? Do you even know what shame means? Yuan asked. You think we want to do this? The young man finally spoke. All of the slots for the hidden domain are taken, but we have to enter it no matter what. And what makes you think we don't need to enter the hidden domain? I don't have the time or patience to entertain you, the young man scoffed, his tone dripping with arrogance. He extended his hand toward Yuan's group, his gaze cold and commanding. Hand over your tokens now, or we'll take them by force. Chapter 1814 The Hidden Domains Opening 2. Chapter 1814 The Hidden Domains Opening 2. Sorry, but that's not happening. Yuan calmly replied, a sneer of disdain spreading across his face. If you want our tokens, you'll have to take them from our corpses. However, I don't think you have the capabilities to make that happen. Then you can die. The young man roared, his patience snapping. Immortal qi erupted from his body in a brilliant surge, the air around him trembling under the sheer force of his power as he prepared to strike. Seeing the young man's aggressive move, Tan Songyun instinctively prepared to counter. However, before she could act, the middle-aged woman beside him intercepted. You can deal with me, she shouted, her voice echoing with confidence as she unleashed a powerful blast of immortal qi toward Tan Songyun, and Shi Meili. Tan Songyun was forced to go into the defense because of Shi Meili, who would not be able to endure the immortal qi as immortal. Meanwhile, the young man launched his assault on Yuan, his immortal qi surging forward like a tidal wave. The overwhelming force of his attack distorted the air around it, crackling with destructive energy as it barreled toward Yuan with tyrannical intensity. In response, Yuan calmly summoned his incomplete immortal qi. With a swift motion, he sliced through the young man's immortal qi as if it were nothing more than a thin veil. What? The young man exclaimed, his voice filled with shock and disbelief. He stared wide-eyed at Yuan. What did you do just now? Sorry, but I don't have time to entertain you. Yuan calmly retrieved Baneful Abyss, its dark blade gleaming ominously in his hand. activating true dragon transformation. His aura erupted with overwhelming force, surging to an intensity that momentarily stunned the young man, freezing him in place with sheer pressure and astonishment. Seizing the opportunity, Yuan moved with lightning speed, closing the distance in an instant. With the baneful abyss in hand, he launched a swift and precise strike aimed directly at the young man, the blade cutting through the air with a menacing hum as it bore down on its target. The young man instinctively reacted to the incoming attack, his body moving just in time to avoid a fatal blow to his neck. However, his evasive maneuver was not perfect, and the baneful abyss grazed his cheek, leaving a shallow but stinging cut. Afterward, Yuan calmly put away baneful abyss, an action that immediately puzzled his opponent. "What do you think you're?" The young man began to speak, but his words were abruptly cut off. His face contorted in excruciating pain as the baneful abyss poison began coursing through his body, melting him from the inside. The young man's screams echoed as he staggered, clutching his body in desperation. "Young master?" The middle-aged woman abruptly stopped her clash with Tan Songyun, her attention snapping toward the young man as his screams of agony filled the air. "Did nobody teach you to never look away in the middle of a battle?" Tan Songyun remarked coldly, a sharp edge in her tone. Without hesitation, she seized the opportunity created by the woman's distraction, unleashing a decisive and fatal strike. The attack caught the woman off guard, sealing her fate. As for the young man, he also perished shortly after. Tan Songyun glanced at the young man's corpse and swallowed nervously. What kind of poison is powerful enough to kill an immortal in seconds? She wondered inwardly. Shortly afterward, Yuan searched their bodies and acquired their spatial rings. Radiant Sky Hall, have you heard of them? Yuan asked as he examined the medallion he had retrieved from their spatial ring. Radiant Sky Hall, they're a prominent sect within the seventh heaven. Tan Songyun said with a slight frown on her face. Let me see that medallion. Yuan handed the medallion to her, and she examined it more intently. A moment later, Tan Songyun rubbed her eyes and sighed. That young man you killed was the Radiant Sky Hall's prime disciple. He's essentially their sect leader's direct disciple. So what? Are you saying I shouldn't have killed him? That would have definitely been better. But since you already killed him, there's nothing we can do. Even if I killed him, there are no witnesses, so there's no way for the Radiant Sky Hall to know that I killed him, Yuan said. Actually, it's quite common for sects and families in the upper heavens to place trackers on their most valuable members. Tan Songyun revealed, her tone serious. If anything happens to them, the sect or family would know immediately. The more advanced and expensive trackers can even identify and locate the individuals responsible for their deaths. Though they are extremely rare and expensive, so I doubt the Radiant Sky Hall would use that for a mere disciple. Even if that's the case, what's done has been done. Also, they were in the wrong for trying to rob us in the first place. Unless the Radiant Sky Hall is shameless enough to come after us, who are the victims, we should be fine. Tan Songyun nodded in agreement. Sorry for being in your way, and thank you for protecting me just now. She merely said to Tan Songyun as they resumed their journey. Don't worry about it. Mortals are no match for immortals anyway. Tan Songyun looked at Yuan as she spoke, pondering about the incomplete immortal chi he used during his fight. Although it wasn't true immortal chi, it was very similar, and it even had the capability to fight true immortal chi. To use such a power when he's only at spirit enlightenment, what a monster, she sighed inwardly. If he's already this powerful at spirit enlightenment, I cannot imagine how powerful he'll become once he becomes an immortal. After traveling for several hours without any interruptions, Yuan and his group had to stop again when another group of individuals blocked them. You lot must be going to the hidden domain. Hand over your tokens, and well spare your lives. The leader of this group demanded. Chapter 1815 The Hidden Domains Opening 3. Chapter 1815 The Hidden Domains Opening 3. This new group of thieves was significantly larger than the previous one, numbering over 100 individuals. However, despite their overwhelming numbers, Their cultivation levels ranged only from Divine Warrior to Divine Lord. Young Master, let me deal with them for you. I also want to use this opportunity to test out the Supreme Seal. Feng Yuxiang suddenly declared with an eager voice. Yuan nodded without hesitation. Sure. I'll leave them to you. A moment later, Feng Yuxiang emerged from Yuan's dantian in a blaze of fiery elegance. And without offering the cultivators so much as a word, she unleashed her flames upon them, her phoenix fire sweeping across the battlefield. The flames consumed the group in an instant, reducing them to ashes before they had the chance to react. Unable to contain her excitement, Feng Yuxiang laughed merrily. Ha! So this is the young master's power. It's marvelous. After the brief delay, Yuan and his group resumed their journey. Unfortunately, their troubles were far from over. Over the next several days, they faced numerous interruptions as more groups of opportunistic cultivators attempted to steal their tokens. Meanwhile, Feng Yuxiang and Lan Yingying would take turns removing the thieves. Are these people just stopping everyone heading to the hidden domain? She merely sighed out loud after their 20th encounter with thieves. Seems like it. Yuan shrugged. Despite Yuan and his group's repeated assertions that they weren't headed to the hidden domain, or didn't possess any entry slots, none of the thieves believed them. In fact, it only made them more aggressive. It reached the point that they stopped trying to avoid a fight, and would just deal with the thieves on the spot without any talking. After 7 days of arduous traveling, Yuan and his group finally reached the location of the hidden domain. Nestled deep within the wilderness, the entrance was concealed behind a massive, roaring waterfall that cascaded down with breathtaking force. The sound of rushing water filled the air, and the misty spray created a mystical aura around the area. The area around the hidden domain was bustling with activity, packed with cultivators of all levels. Most of them, however, did not possess an entry token. Despite the Heavenly Beast Sect's best efforts to keep the hidden domain's details a secret, the information had inevitably leaked to the public, drawing a massive crowd eager to try their luck or profit from the chaos. Unwilling to trade a mythic-grade treasure for a single slot, I'll offer 2 ancient rank martial techniques for a slot. The area resembled a bustling open market, with people shouting their offers for an entry slot to the hidden domain. Whenever a new face appeared, the entire crowd's attention would inevitably shift, their eyes filled with suspicion, curiosity, or greed. The moment Yuan's group arrived, countless gazes locked onto them, evaluating their strength, identity, and most importantly, whether they might be carrying entry tokens. Yuan's group paid no attention to the stares and headed directly to the entrance of the hidden domain, a shimmering portal hidden behind the massive waterfall and protected by several powerful formations. The sect leader of the Heavenly Beast Sect was guarding the entrance with several other experts. Of course, Hongling was there too. Welcome to the hidden domain, esteemed guests. Sect leader Bao smiled upon seeing them. So we can only enter with an entry token? Yuan asked. No, anyone can enter since this isn't the only entrance you have to go through to enter the Immortal Monastery. That said, we cannot allow just anyone to enter. Currently, we're only allowing those with a verified identity or trustworthy background to enter, as we don't want any unnecessary troublemakers. I see. Would you like to enter now? Yes. Sect leader Bao opened the formation, allowing Yuan and his group to enter. I'll show them around. Hongling suddenly said. Okay. Sect leader Bao nodded. Follow me. Following Hongling, Yuan and his companions stepped through the portal. On the other side, they found themselves in a sprawling, seemingly bustling city. The architecture was grand and vibrant, exuding an air of ancient sophistication. However, it quickly became apparent that something was amiss. Despite the city's appearance, none of the stores were open for business. The shops stood eerily empty, their interiors devoid of any goods or signs of activity. Not a single vendor or resident could be found, giving the city an unsettling, lifeless quality. The only people present were fellow visitors to the hidden domain, cultivators who had entered through the portal, their curious gazes sweeping over the strange, deserted cityscape. However, as Yuan's eyes scanned the city, an unexpected feeling washed over him. It was a sense of nostalgia, almost as if had been to this place before. This is the city of Radiance. Yuan subconsciously muttered as he recalled Tian Yang's memories of visiting this city before. Huh? You know this place? Hong Ling asked, her eyes widening in disbelief. The Heavenly Beast sect had spent years trying to uncover information about the city, yet their efforts yielded little to nothing. He nodded calmly. This city existed near the borders of the Immortal Monastery. It was a popular hangout spot for the disciples. How do you know this? Hong Ling inquired. My family has records of the Immortal Monastery. I see. Yuan retrieved the baneful abyss and wore it around his waist so Ji-Ran could see the scenery. This is City of Radiance. Ji-Ran immediately recognized the place. Where is the Immortal Monastery? Yuan asked a moment later. Hong Ling pointed toward a majestic mountain in the distance, its peak shrouded in a thick fog. The entrance to the Immortal Monastery is at the top of that mountain. It's not open yet, but do you want to go now? I was going to show you around the city first, Hong Ling said. Yuan shook his head and said, No, let's take a look around the city first. Understood, she acknowledged. Chapter 1816 City of Radiance. Chapter 1816 City of Radiance. When we first discovered the hidden domain, we thought this city was all it had to offer, Hong Ling explained as they walked through the streets of the City of Radiance. Because of the size of this city, it took us several years to search through it thoroughly. Unfortunately, we didn't find many treasures here. Her tone carried a hint of frustration, clearly recalling the disappointment of their fruitless efforts. While most hidden domains are treasure troves, offering priceless artifacts or cultivation techniques, that's not always the case, she continued. Some hidden domains turn out to be completely barren, with nothing of value to offer. For a while, we thought this was one of those. As they continued their walk through the city, Yuan and his group noticed other visitors rifling through the empty stores like desperate bandits. Some tore apart shelves and counters in search of hidden compartments, while others pried at walls and floors, hoping to uncover secret caches. The scene was chaotic, filled with muttered curses and the occasional exclamation of frustration as their efforts turned up nothing. It was clear that, despite the city's emptiness, the visitors weren't ready to give up on the possibility of hidden treasures lurking within its abandoned structures. Are you okay with them tearing up this place like that? Feng Yuxiang asked, raising an eyebrow as she glanced at the chaotic scene around them. Hong Ling smiled faintly and replied, As long as they don't alter the structure of the city or cause any major damage, it's fine. Besides, entering the hidden domain isn't free. The Heavenly Beast sect collects fees for access for those without a slot, so it's not like we aren't benefiting from their desperation. Hong Ling didn't bother stating the obvious, that the Heavenly Beast sect had already scoured every inch of this city with meticulous care. They had left no stone unturned, no hidden compartment unchecked. As they ventured deeper into the city, Yuan's sense of nostalgia grew increasingly profound. Every detail, the architecture, the layout of the streets, and even the faint traces of energy lingering in the air, stirred something deep within him. That noodle store belonged to Granny Mai, Yuan thought, his gaze lingering on a small, dirty, and run-down store nestled between two much larger and more luxurious establishments. A faint smile touched his lips as memories stirred within him. She would always give me a free meal whenever I visited, even when I insisted on paying. A few blocks down, Yuan's gaze landed on an old smithy, its structure dusty and abandoned. Uncle Dong, Yuan thought, a wave of nostalgia washing over him. The memory of the reliable blacksmith surfaced clearly in his mind. Uncle Dong had always been there to help, fixing Tian Yang's swords whenever they became too worn or damaged from rigorous use. Eventually, Yuan and his group reached the outer area of the city, where the shops and bustling streets gave way to rows of residential buildings. The houses varied in size and design, but most shared an elegant simplicity, showcasing the same ancient craftsmanship as the rest of the city. However, like the rest of the city, these homes were eerily empty, their windows dark and lifeless, as though the residents had vanished without a trace. This is the residential area. There's not much to see here, Hongling said, her tone casual as she began to turn, clearly intending to lead them elsewhere. Wait, Yuan interjected, his voice calm but firm. There's a place I want to visit. Huh. Sure, Hongling replied, nodding despite the puzzled expression on her face. She followed Yuan, clearly curious about what he was looking for. Without another word, Yuan stepped forward and began leading the group deeper into the residential area. His movements were confident, as if he knew exactly where he was going. Seeing this, Hongling wondered inwardly, this should be his first time here, but why does it feel like he's very familiar with this place, almost as if had lived here for his entire life? After walking several blocks in silence, Yuan came to a halt in front of an unassuming building. It was modest in design, blending seamlessly with the other residential structures around it. The building's weathered exterior showed signs of age, but there was an undeniable warmth to its simplicity. Yuan stood still for a moment, gazing at it with a mix of nostalgia and melancholy, as though memories from long ago were flooding back to him. This is the place you want to visit? Hongling asked. He nodded and said, I'm going to check it out. Can we come with you? Hongling continued. Sure. They stepped inside the building shortly after, immediately noticing how tight and compact the interior was. The small space felt even more cramped with the entire group inside. There was little to no furnishing, only a few bare, dusty shelves and an empty table in the corner. A thick layer of dust coated every surface, and cobwebs hung in the corners. Yuan didn't say a word or take any specific action as he stood inside the building. He simply looked around, his gaze wandering slowly across the small, dusty space. There was a certain reverence in his expression, as though he were marveling at something unseen to the others. All right, I am done, he said a few minutes later. Huh. That's it. You made it seem like you were looking for something, Hongling remarked with a dumbfounded expression on her face. It's a misunderstanding, he said, offering no explanation. All right, let's head to the Immortal Monastery now, shall we? He continued. Sure. Hongling nodded in a dazed manner. Young master, what were you searching for? Jiran asked curiously. I wanted to check if this city is real, or just a replica of the city of Radiance, he revealed. A replica? This place looks real to me, Jiran remarked. That's what I thought at first, too. Unfortunately, that isn't the case. What? Jiran swallowed nervously after hearing this. Chapter 1817 City of Radiance 2. Chapter 1817 City of Radiance 2. This City of Radiance is a replica? So it's fake? For what purpose? Jiran questioned, his brow furrowed in confusion as he tried to make sense of Yuan's revelation. I don't know, Yuan replied thoughtfully. But whoever made this place definitely invested an immense amount of energy and effort to ensure it was as realistic and detailed as possible. What about the Immortal Monastery? Are you saying that it's also fake? Possibly, but we won't know for certain until we see it. Although Yuan claimed he didn't know why anyone would go to such lengths to create a replica of the City of Radiance, several possibilities crossed his mind. One plausible explanation was that this hidden domain could be a trap, a meticulously crafted lure designed to draw people in for some unknown purpose. Hidden domains always attracted attention, drawing cultivators from far and wide with the promise of treasures and opportunities. It wasn't unheard of for such places to be disguised traps, crafted to exploit the greed and curiosity of those who entered. Another possibility was that the City of Radiance had been replicated simply to serve as a replacement for the original, which may have long since perished. In this case, the replica might not hold any sinister purpose or hidden agenda. Instead, it could be nothing more than a decorative tribute, a way to preserve the memory of a once glorious city. Perhaps it was created by someone who revered the original City of Radiance, ensuring that its legacy would not be forgotten, even if its inhabitants and purpose had vanished with time. Sometime later, they arrived at the bottom of the mountain that led to the Immortal Monastery. The entrance to the Immortal Monastery is at the top, said Hongling as she stepped onto the first step. Feng Yuxiang raised an eyebrow at her actions and asked, "We're walking? Why don't we just fly up there?" Hongling smiled at her words and calmly responded, "Go ahead and try, flying up there I mean." Feng Yuxiang didn't think much about it, and gathered her spiritual energy. However, when she tried flying, she realized she couldn't control her spiritual energy, almost as if something was disrupting it. "What's going on?" Feng Yuxiang muttered as she tried gathering her spiritual energy again, only for them to disperse due to a lack of control. Although this world has spiritual energy, and we can cultivate it, we cannot control it for some reason, Hongling revealed. We're almost no different from mortals while we are inside the hidden domain. Seriously? Feng Yuxiang muttered. With their ability to use spiritual energy sealed, they were forced to walk up the mountain, which contained tens of thousands of steps. Fortunately, while they could not use their spiritual energy, their cultivation wasn't affected, allowing them to climb the mountain without breaking any sweat. It was mostly a chore, an inconvenience than anything. Upon reaching the peak of the mountain, they found themselves on a spacious flat surface, its layout eerily reminiscent of the peak of the Dragon Spiral Mountain. In the distance near the edge of the mountain, stood a massive open gate colored in gold. Above it, a grand sign displayed the words Immortal Monastery in bold, majestic script, exuding an aura of authority and timelessness. "I never thought I would see the immortal gates again," Jiran commented in a teary voice as he stared at the gates. "That's the Immortal Monastery? Where's the rest of the sect?" She merely asked. "That gate is also a teleporter. It'll lead us to the Immortal Monastery once it opens," Yuan said. Hongling nodded and said, "Indeed, and only those with a token will be able to enter the Immortal Monastery. Everyone else will have to stay here." "There's so much more than 20,000 people here," she merely remarked after scanning the area with her gaze. Despite there only being 20,000 slots available, there were more than 50,000 people at the peak of the mountain. This did not include the thousands of people searching the city. "Young master, what do you think about the gate?" "It looks real to me," Jiran asked him. Yuan narrowed his eyes at the golden gates. After a moment of silence he said, "It definitely looks real, but I have no real way of knowing whether it's real or just another perfect replica. The only reason I knew the city of Radiance is a replica is because something I left in my living quarters at the real one was missing. However, there's nothing about the gate I can use to compare. If anything, you should be more familiar with it than me." Jiran sighed. "Unfortunately, I really can't tell. I haven't seen the Immortal Monastery since the primordial era, so my memories of it are not reliable at all. Honestly, even if my memory was perfect, I don't think I'd be able to tell. I guess we'll only be certain once we go inside. It's extremely risky, but there's a reason why I am here," Yuan said. "Well then, you guys can do whatever you want until the Immortal Monastery opens. I'll head back to my master now," Hongling said a moment later. "All right. Thanks for the tour," Feng Yuxiang said. Once Hongling left, Feng Yuxiang returned to Yuan's Dantian to rest. "I'll be back," Tan Songyan suddenly said. "You see your friends?" Yuan guessed. "Something like that." Tan Songyan didn't explain further and walked away. Yuan then watched as she approached two beautiful ladies in the crowd. "Hello, Senior Sister Li, Senior Sister Zhang," Tan Songyan greeted them. "Oh, if it isn't Junior Sister Tan. What are you doing here?" asked one of the ladies, who was wearing a bright red robe. "I'm here to participate in the hidden domain. Are you also here as participants?" Tan Songyan asked, her tone polite and refined. Her demeanor was a stark contrast to how she spoke with Yuan, graceful and poised, resembling the renowned zither goddess she had been before her heart was broken. Her words carried an air of elegance that drew the attention of those around her. Chapter 1818 Immortal Monastery. Chapter 1818 Immortal Monastery. Yes. Although we weren't that interested at first, we came here after hearing about the Immortal Monastery. Believe it or not, my ancestors used to be disciples of the Immortal Monastery, at least according to the records they left behind, said the red-robed woman, who was surnamed Zhang. I decided to tag along with her since it sounded interesting, said Fairy Li. What about you, junior sister Tan? Where have you been lately? It's been years since we've heard from you, Fairy Zhang inquired. I went to fulfill my pact of vengeance, she calmly said. Oh, you finally found that bastard who broke your heart? Did you tear him limb from limb? Fairy Li's eyes flickered with excitement. I hope you cut off his manhood. Fairy Zhang gestured a chopping motion with her arm. Yuan's eyes widened at these ladies' viciousness that betrayed their gentle appearances. Tan Songyun shook her head and said, I found him, but the situation is much more complicated than I thought. What's so complicated about it? The man toyed with you and broke your heart. It's as simple as it gets. Tan Songyun sighed. I wish it were that simple. Don't worry. I am handling it right now. Well, it's your pact of vengeance, so we have no say in how you want to take revenge. However, if you ever need help, don't hesitate to contact us. You're Lady Weiss' favorite after all, Fairy Li said. Can you stop saying it like that? It has a weird tone to it. But it's true. The two of you are like real sisters, Fairy Zhang remarked. Tan Songyun and these two individuals continued chatting for the next several days, with Tan Songyun recalling her experiences of the last few years without mentioning Yuan directly. Yuan and she merely sat together in silence, patiently waiting for the Immortal Monastery to open. During the next few days, numerous people approached Yuan and Shi hoping to acquire an entry slot. However, both of them consistently denied possessing one, calmly explaining that they were only there to spectate. While some individuals resorted to slightly aggressive questioning, they ultimately walked away without escalating the situation. Unlike in the outside world, their inability to use spiritual energy inside the hidden domain made any potential conflict far riskier. Additionally, acting like a bandit in such a public setting, surrounded by other famous cultivators, would severely tarnish their reputations. The Immortal Monastery will be open shortly. Everyone with an entry slot, please gather before the Golden Gates. Sect leader Bao announced shortly after he appeared on the peak. Hearing this, all of the participants began gathering in front of the entrance. Feng Yuxiang emerged from Yuan's dantian and said, Good luck, you guys. Since she wasn't participating, she had to stay outside with the others. By the way, what about Xiao Hua? Feng Yuxiang asked through voice transmission. Yuan sighed. Due to her status as an exile, I do not want to expose her to so many people from the upper heavens here if I don't have to. I'll see if I can enter with her first. If I can enter with my soul weapons, there's a good chance I can enter with Xiao Hua inside my dantian. In that case, I'll come with you, Feng Yuxiang said before returning to his dantian again. A few minutes later, the massive golden gates began to emit a profound and ancient aura. The energy spread outward in a ripple, sweeping across the entire area like an invisible wave. The aura carried a weight of timelessness, as though it had existed for millennia, untouched by the flow of time. Those present could feel its immense power, leaving many in awe and silence as they braced themselves for what was about to unfold. The aura continued to surge forth like a broken dam, each ripple growing increasingly powerful as it radiated across the area. The sheer intensity of the energy made the air feel heavier with every wave, pressing down on everyone present. Some cultivators instinctively took a step back, their faces pale as they struggled to withstand the overwhelming force. This is immortal qi. A mere gate is exuding immortal qi? I cannot imagine what the rest of the Immortal Monastery will look like. The participants trembled with excitement. Sometime later, the aura ceased its outward expansion, but it continued to radiate power around the Golden Gate. Then a deep, ancient voice echoed across the area, its tone imbued with an overwhelming sense of authority and timelessness. Each word resonated deeply, causing the souls of those present to tremble in reverence, as if they were before a god. Welcome to the Immortal Monastery. My surname is Tian, and I was once called the Ancient Immortal. Ancient Immortal. Ji Ran exclaimed in shock after hearing this name. That's the Immortal Monastery's founder. However, this makes no sense. The ancestor died long before the sect collapsed. Why would he create a place like this? Hearing this, Yuan said, He could be an imposter for all we know. That's true. Even I don't know what the founder's voice sounds like, so this could very well be a fake. The voice continued, its tone unwavering and solemn. I created this place shortly before my death, as a safeguard in the event that the Immortal Monastery is ever destroyed or ceases to exist. As pessimistic as that might sound, if the Immortal Monastery still stands to this very day, consider this an opportunity to glimpse what life was like during its earliest days. You will also have the chance to earn rewards, powerful martial techniques, cultivation methods, treasures, and rare herbs that were available during the primordial era. However, do not think these rewards will come easily. Only by passing the trials I have created will you be deemed worthy of acquiring them. If you somehow manage to pass all of my trials, I will even allow you to inherit my legacy, which includes the Immortal Monastery. The moment these words echoed through the air, the crowd's collective breath hitched. Many swallowed hard, their eyes flickering with unmistakable greed and desire. Chapter 1819 Entering the Immortal Monastery. Chapter 1819 Entering the Immortal Monastery, the Ancient Immortal's Legacy. Someone exclaimed, their voice trembling with excitement. I've heard about him before. He was one of the earliest cultivators to reach immortality. If he could achieve the immortal realm during such an early period, when cultivation was barely developed, I can only imagine the kind of heaven-defying cultivation techniques he must have possessed. Forget that. We get to inherit the Immortal Monastery. Doesn't this mean we will inherit all of their techniques? I'm willing to risk my life for this opportunity. After a moment of pause, the Ancient Immortal continued speaking. Only those who have a token will be able to participate in my trials. I have left behind 20,000 tokens. Anyone without a token who tries to participate will be erased from existence. I will begin calling the number on the tokens in an hour. When the Ancient Immortal mentioned the numbers, a few people holding entry tokens instinctively glanced at them. To their surprise, a faint number now glowed on their tokens, something that hadn't been there before. However, not everyone's token bore a number. The absence of this marking on some tokens caused unease to ripple through the crowd, as it likely meant those tokens were fakes. Why don't my token have a number? What is the meaning of this? Someone eventually shouted, his voice filled with anger. Mine is also missing a number. Mine too. Does this mean our token is fake? Sect leader Bao, what is the meaning of this? The people with a fake entry token immediately turned to Sect leader Bao for answers, as the Heavenly Beast Sect was responsible for handing out the tokens. How dare you try to scam us with these fake entry slots? Do you know who you're messing with? Fuck. I paid a fucking fortune for this entry slot. I demand an answer, Heavenly Beast Sect. Did you really think you'd get away scamming us? I'll burn down the Heavenly Beast Sect myself if that's the case. Sect leader Bao appeared genuinely shocked and confused by the sudden revelation about the tokens. However, his daze was short-lived as the situation quickly escalated. When people began directing their anger and threats toward the Heavenly Beast Sect, his expression hardened. With so many powerful cultivators and influential figures from the upper heavens present, the sect could not afford to offend them. Doing so would undoubtedly spell disaster, and potentially lead to the destruction of the Heavenly Beast Sect. Sect leader Bao straightened his posture, his voice steady but tinged with urgency as he addressed the crowd. Everybody, please calm down and listen to me. The tokens my Heavenly Beast Sect handed out are definitely real. Every single one was acquired directly from this place, so it's extremely unlikely they are fake. He paused, his gaze sharp as he swept across the crowd. Now, I have a question for those of you with a fake token, he continued, his tone demanding yet composed. Did you acquire the token directly from my sect, or did you obtain it through another source? If you did not acquire a token directly through my Heavenly Beast Sect, there's a good chance you were scammed. In such a case, it is not my Heavenly Beast Sect's responsibility to compensate you. The area grew quiet, and those with fake tokens stood dumbfounded as they realized they had been scammed. The others, after hearing sect leader Bao's explanation, couldn't find a reason to blame the Heavenly Beast sect and mostly sided with him. If someone had purchased a token from outside the Heavenly Beast sect, it was their responsibility to do their due diligence to ensure they weren't buying a fake token. Scams like these were not uncommon, especially when dealing with something as valuable as entry tokens to a hidden domain. Eventually, someone broke the silence. I got my token directly from the Heavenly Beast sect. That's right. I got my token from the Heavenly Beast sect, too. Or are you calling us liars? That's exactly what I am calling you, sect leader Bao roared. I don't care if you're from the upper heavens or not. I have registered the identity of everyone who received a token from our sect. If you claim to have gotten your token from us, you should be willing to give us your name, so that we can verify it. Once sect leader Bao mentioned a list of verified token holders, those who had been shouting moments ago fell instantly silent. The atmosphere grew still, and the area became quiet once again. Meanwhile, everyone took out their token to verify they had the real ones. Yuan also did the same, and sure enough, all 5 of his tokens had a number on them. Here. After verifying the tokens, Yuan handed token number 11,923 to Shi Meili, 7,129 to Lan Yingying, and 17,441 to Yingzi, leaving numbers 7,688 and 2,025 to himself and Ji Ran. Is anyone willing to sell their real token to me? I'll pay any amount. One of the individuals with a fake token shouted, their voice brimming with desperation. Others in the same predicament quickly joined in, their frantic pleas echoing through the area as they scrambled to secure a legitimate token, willing to offer anything to enter the Immortal Monastery. A few individuals holding real tokens seized the opportunity to secure an immediate and guaranteed profit. Despite setting exorbitant prices, the desperation of those with fake tokens ensured that the real tokens were purchased almost instantly. An hour later, the ancient Immortal's voice resounded once more, echoing across the area. The Immortal Monastery will now open. Those with numbers 1 to 1,000 may enter the Immortal Gates and begin their trial. You have 3 minutes to do so, or you'll lose your chance to enter. As soon as the announcement ended, a wave of movement erupted. People rushed toward the gates where a massive portal shimmered, eager to visit the Immortal Monastery. However, even at a glance, it was obvious that far more than 1,000 individuals were rushing toward the gates. The moment those without a real token, or any token at all, attempted to step into the portal, a terrifying sight unfolded. Their bodies and souls were instantly vaporized by an unseen force, leaving nothing behind. This shocked everyone, momentarily halting their movements. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.